Okay, I'm going to call to order this regular meeting of council. First, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territory of the Stanawas First Nation. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. I'll just simply make the motion that the June 8th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Gusselbart. Any discussion on the agenda? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I will move to calling the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. And that takes us on to public hearings under agenda item 5. So we have the District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020, amendment bylaw, open bracket 6935 Dickinson Road, close bracket number 302/2022. So notice of public hearing posted May 25th, 2022, bylaw number 302 at second reading, April 20th, 2022. There's a report to council dated April 20th, 2022, and written public input received between the posting of the the notice of public hearing on May 25th, 2022 and June 3rd of 2022, 9 a.m. So at this point, guys, sorry, I'm transitioning to reading glasses and it's not fun. So we're going to be moving to the public hearing section of our agenda this evening. So good evening, and on behalf of council, I'd like to welcome everyone watching the live stream, participating in the public hearing remotely via Zoom and in the council chamber. This public hearing is being conducted by electronic means pursuant to the Local Government Act, Community Charter, and the council procedure bylaw for the purpose of council to receive and consider input from all persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020 amendment bylaw, open bracket 6935 Dickinson Road, close bracket number 302/2022. The council chamber at Municipal Hall is located at 7192 Lantzville Road, is open with limited seating for members of the public who do not have the ability to connect to the public hearing electronically, so that you can attend in person to watch and hear and ensure that you have the opportunity to be heard, subject the posted occupant load established by the local assistant to the fire commissioner. If you wish to speak remotely and you have not yet registered, we ask that you register now. For those of you who are watching online via our live stream, please note that you can still join the Zoom webinar to speak to bylaw 302 by going to lantzville.ca, clicking on the June 8th in the calendar, click view details, and follow the instructions to register following the Zoom link webinar provided. And join the meeting before the hearing for bylaw 302 is closed. Those in the council chamber who wish to speak can register by signing the first opportunity speakers list located on a table at the entrance of the council chamber. Those who have pre-registered via Zoom will be given first opportunity to speak, and then those registered in council chamber, all speakers lists will be managed by staff in person from the council chamber. All registered speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. I will let speakers know when you have 30 seconds left and when your time is up. Speakers participating via Zoom will be asked to unmute by staff when your name is called and muted again once you have concluded your remarks. Do not put your phone on speaker. Do not hang up or leave the webinar if you wish to speak a second time. Members of the public will be provided an opportunity to be heard on matters related only to bylaw 302. No one will be, nor should they feel, discouraged or prevented from making their views known. Those in the gallery, please refrain from talking amongst one another, turn off your phones, and clapping will not be permitted so that everyone has the opportunity to hear. Once the first opportunity speakers list is exhausted, I will call for second time speakers who have new information to present and wish to speak again. Remote participants who wish to speak again will be asked to use the Zoom raise hand feature to indicate that you would like to speak. This feature can be found in your webinar controls. Speakers in the council chamber must sign the second opportunity speakers list. If you're participating by phone, the raise and lower hand function can be activated by pressing *9 on your keypad. During the public hearing, I ask that you restrict your comments to the proposed bylaw 302 and be as brief and concise as possible. We're asking speakers to respect a 3-minute time limit. Please note that there can be a lag time between the meeting live stream and the Zoom webinar. Please be reminded, following the close of the public hearing, council must not accept or consider further submissions or comments regarding proposed bylaw 302. If you have questions, please direct them to the district staff. I will now proceed to the public hearing for agenda item 5A. This public hearing is being convened to consider proposed District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020, amendment bylaw, open bracket 6935 Dickinson Road, close bracket, number 302-2022. At this public hearing, any person registered remotely or in the council chamber who believes that their interest in property is affected by proposed bylaw 302 shall be given an opportunity to be heard on matters contained in the bylaw. Members of council may, if they wish, ask you questions following your presentation. However, the main function of council members during this hearing is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council during this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with the public. As chair of this meeting, I reserve the right to conclude any presentation that does not relate to bylaw 302, becomes abusive, or becomes repetitive of views that the speaker has already made known to council. After this public hearing is concluded, council may, without further notice, give whatever effect council believes proper to the representations made at this hearing. I will now call on the Director of Planning and Community Services, Mr. Frank Lim-Shu, to introduce the proposed bylaw. So through to you, Director Lim-Shu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just going to share my screen, if you can bear with me. Okay, can everybody see that? There should be a map in front of you. Yes?
That is correct, we can see.
Okay, thank you. So as indicated, the proposed public hearing relates to the property located at 6935 Dickinson Road. The property is highlighted in gray on the map here. It should be noted that only a portion of the property is going to be rezoned, or it's being proposed for rezoning. The subject property is approximately 1.85 hectares or 4.57 acres. It's currently zoned future study area, and the proposed zoning is to change that to residential 5. The property is currently designated residential under the official community plan. The map that you see on your right outlines the proposed subdivision. Should the zoning bylaw be ultimately approved, the applicant is wishing to subdivide the property further. And so this map illustrates the proposed subdivision layout. So here's Dickinson Road. As you can see, it indicates the existing house and buildings on the site. But the actual subdivision is going to take place in this area here. And that's the area that's subject to the rezoning. As I mentioned, should the zoning be approved, the subdivision would accommodate 8 brand new lots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The proposed development also would include constructing Owen Road through to the neighboring property to the east. The long-term vision is for Owen Road to ultimately connect up to Shook Road. The subdivision proposal also would include a cul-de-sac, which would service 6 new lots. The last thing I want to mention is that as part of the rezoning application submission, the applicant has agreed to provide cash contribution of $3,000 per lot, up to a maximum of $24,000. That's basically 3 times 8 new lots provides the $24,000. In addition to that, the applicants also indicated that they would provide up to $10,000 for a speed reader. With that, I'll stop sharing my screen and pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Limshu. At this point, I will call on the applicant, Mr. Toby Seward of Seward Developments, if he wishes to speak to the application for up to 10 minutes. He's not on the call? Okay. That's easy then. So at this point, I will be calling for first-time persons registered remotely and in council chambers who believe that their interest in property is affected by proposed bylaw 302. Please wait for your name to be called, and when it is your turn, state your full name and civic address. So through to staff.
So it'll be Joan Jones.
Okay, so through to Joan Jones, if you can please state your full name and address for the record, please. And then
Yes, thank you. My name is Joan Jones. I reside at 7255 Ellesmere Drive in Lantzville. I do not support this plan. My primary objection is the complete absence of dedicated park space. Some people may feel this is okay in a growing community. That is not my opinion, and there are many reasons for that. Green space in Lantzville's new communities is given a high priority in our OCP. And this is a document, as you know, that took years to complete, reflected the will of residents, and was passed unanimously by this council in 2019. Green spaces get residents out of their homes, but not into their cars. Young and old can walk, bike, scooter to a local park to play, have a picnic, weed a community garden. All this benefits the mental and physical health of residents, and very importantly, it strengthens community bonds. Green spaces are educational for all ages. They connect the generations to the land. When we connect to nature, we develop understanding, appreciation, and caring for our environment. Adults don't have to drive to one of the few already overcrowded parks in Lantzville. These green spaces provide a ground area for infiltration of water runoff. They provide habitats for insects, birds, and other wildlife. Their trees increase the canopy over Lantzville, a community rapidly losing its trees. Economically, it's wise to hold on to green space. The money contributed to the city for a buyout is far less than the cost of buying green space. Once gone, gone forever. The OCP puts a high priority on green space within communities and greenways connecting communities. This plan does not fully comply with the OCP recommendations. In conclusion, a little community park has an enormous value. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Through to staff, do we have any additional remotely registered speakers? Okay, hearing none, so we have an in-person list.
Yes, you're now into the in-person list. First speaker up is Jonathan Lerner.
Again, just stating your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Lerner, and I'm a resident of Lantzville at 8354 Bayview Park Drive, and I'm here to speak on this zoning proposal. I'm not specifically either in favor nor opposed to this particular development. Rather, I am here to address flaws that can be corrected and improved to make it more acceptable. My first point is with regard to parkland. There is a proposal here to abandon highly necessary, limited, and coveted parkland in this development in exchange for a one-time cash buyout. I believe this is short-sighted and poorly serves the residents of Lantzville. Cash is a temporary commodity that can be easily exhausted. And as we have seen, the district's budget has grown at an enormous pace, making it clear that money is easy to spend in Lantzville. The funds received in lieu of parkland would be a drop in the bucket to our budget and would make no real difference in the lives of residents. Parkland, however, is a long-term community asset and resource. It will serve Lance villagers for generations. But once abandoned, it is gone forever. It could be hundreds of years before this space is developed again, leaving generations without the parkland to enjoy. It also provides future opportunities for the district. It can sit for now with trees and grass, but it has the potential for future parkland trail connections and community services to be added at a future time. Abandoning the parkland now permanently harms the community's ability to pivot to new projects in the future. Some have made the incorrect assumptions that parkland must either be a vast area with tennis courts or playgrounds, or that parkland must be maintained at a high cost to the district. Neither assumption is correct. Parkland can simply be a nice area of trees and grass, providing habitat to the nature we all enjoy. Besides, surely with the enormous nearly 70% increase to the municipal tax rate this council has approved at a great burden to the taxpayers, we should at least get some maintenance of our parkland from that money. The justification given for the tax increase was that it was needed to support future development and parkland maintenance. Well, here is the future development, and here is the future parkland. So why don't we get it? Thank you.
Okay.
Next speaker is Brian Blood, followed by Hans Larson.
And name and address for the record, please.
Brian Blood, 7075 Gillette Road. I don't have a lot of problem with this particular development. I hope that Jack and Jackie are able to move ahead with it. My main concerns are with how the district has kind of failed to provide the kind of leadership that would have been helpful to the de Jongs in laying this out. And one relates to parkland, as has already been mentioned. I think we've missed an opportunity here with the property that's being developed next door right now, with the de Jong property, and eventually with the property between there and Shook Road, that we've missed an opportunity to create a pedestrian trailway in a green and pleasant environment across all of these lands to Shook Road and May Richards Bennett Park in Nanaimo. This is the kind of connectivity it's in the OCP that we should be doing this. It's something that we've always wanted to do, and I think the district has missed that opportunity here, and if there's a chance to go back, I think we should. The other one is the amenities. And again, the de Jongs are providing $3,000 per lot, and there will be the equivalent of 5% parkland contribution, although I wonder how that gets calculated. $3,000 a lot amenity value isn't enough, and yet the district has kind of set that figure and stood behind it. If we could go back, and I think it should be at least 5,000, maybe more. If you consider how much profit the people who are developing this will make on these lots, I think $3,000 a lot for amenities is a pretty paltry sum. But that's on the district, not on the de Jongs.
Okay, next speaker, please.
I already called that it was Hans Larson.
Okay, Mr. Larson, if you wish to come to the microphone, please.
Looking for red or green?
It's on, so you can just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hans Larson, 7010 Owen Road. Mayor and Council, based on the information that I've been able to ascertain regarding this proposal, I'm inclined to be opposed to the rezoning for a property in the future study area of East Lower Lantzville, an area where good planning principles say we need a buffer between us and the city of Nanaimo. Unfortunately, I'm unable to tell you how strongly I'm opposed because I lack the information required to be able to make that determination. You see, after 3.5 months of cajoling and waiting and receiving several commitments from CAO Campbell, I still don't have the answers to several important questions that I have asked. I feel strongly that this is not very professional or democratic behavior. Sadly, this is far from the first time that this has happened in Lantzville to myself and others who are interested in the community. In the April 20th, 2022 report to Chief Administrative Officer from the planner on this proposal, staff wrote, the proposed development will be consistent with the OCP policies, subject to the answers that I should have received from staff regarding OCP section 527.2. I don't believe this to be true. The second part of staff's statement belies the fact that inserting a pocket of 0.29 to 0.41 acre lots with up to 16 dwelling units into the neighborhood where the average surrounding lot size is 2 acres and the smallest, in spite of a rezoning approval for the property immediately to the west, 1/2 acre, will simply not blend in. In the absence of any future study, planning, and land use analysis, it will also continue a very bad precedent for the numerous large vacant and semi-vacant properties, adding up to at least 41 acres in our neighborhood. When council considered the Sabrina Lantzville Road rezoning about a year and a half ago to the same new R5 zone and refused its second reading, some of you had stated that it's not in keeping with the neighborhood, and I don't think it's appropriate for that area of town. The same goes here. Finally, the provision of $10,000 for a speed reader board as a deal sweetener is a red herring, since we don't very often have any data on how successful they are, if at all, in reducing speed. At least until recently, we also don't gather any ongoing speed data for possible future police enforcement. As had been previously so succinctly stated in some official community area
I have
plans,
about 30 seconds.
residents, through their participation in the planning and public hearing process, just like this one, are the final arbiters of community values. Thank you for your careful consideration of our position on this important matter.
Okay, thank you. There's no more first-time in council registered speakers, I'm assuming?
Yes, we have one more. Oh, no, sorry, not a first time. We
Not
have a
first time,
second
okay. And then what about remotely? Any more remotely registered
No
speakers?
hand.
Want to ask her to raise her hand if she wants to?
Okay, through to Joan Jones, if you were wishing to speak a second time, this would be the time to use the raise hand feature to indicate that you wish to do so. Just giving a little pause, because there may be a lag. Okay, so I think we've given enough time. We'll move to in-council chambers.
In council
Speakers.
chambers, registration to speak for a second time is Jonathan Lerner.
Okay, again, name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Lerner, and I'm a resident of Lantzville at 8354 Bayview Park Drive. My final point on this proposal is with regard to proper process deciding on parkland, among other things. I've looked at the studies performed on the various areas of Lantzville with regard to parkland. Studies with extensive community input and public hearings have been performed on various areas of the district in order to provide council with policies and guidelines on things such as parkland percentages and requirements. However, I, after much research, can find no such recent study on the greater area of Lantzville in which this particular development sits. Therefore, I don't feel the council has the proper information before it in order to make a decision on parkland for this development. Proper procedure dictates that a fulsome process must take place for the entire area in which this development sits and the greater community, including community consultation, public hearings, and reports to council, which must then be adopted by council as guidelines. Only then can council properly approve parkland considerations for developments in this area, such as this one. Therefore, it's clear to me that council must postpone approval of this development and parkland considerations for this zoning proposal until after all of the appropriate studies and community consultations have taken place. There seems to be a constant push to see development approved in Lantzville at breakneck speed, and I think that council should take the time to get it right. Thank you.
Okay, is there any additional second-time speakers? All right. I should be following my procedure here. So again, I'll call for a second time for persons registered remotely and in council chamber who have new information to present and wish to speak again. If you wish to speak again via Zoom, use the Zoom raise hand feature to indicate that you would like to speak again. This function can be found in your webinar controls. If you're participating by telephone, you can use the raise hand feature by activating it by pressing *9 on your keypad. If you're in the council chambers and wish to speak again, you must sign the second speaker's opportunity list located at the table at the entrance to the council chamber. So again, I would just call for a second time. Okay, before declaring this hearing for proposed bylaw 302 closed, I'd like to reiterate that the following that following the close of this hearing, council must not accept or consider further submissions or comment regarding proposed bylaw 302. I will call for a third and final time for persons registered remotely and in the council chamber who have new information to present and wish to speak again. Okay, so remotely?
I have the applicant, an email from the applicant, Toby Seward, who is trying to get on right now. He's going to try and phone in, if we could give him a little bit of time.
I believe you have one speaker in the chambers who would like to speak again.
So there's nobody registered remotely, so we've got that squared away. And then for in-person or in-chamber, if you have, who's wishes to speak again? Okay, so yeah, just come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Hans Larson, 7010 Owen Road. I just wanted to say that I just realized that I had been speaking through my mask to you the previous time, so I was hoping that I was heard and understood. If there's any area that you would like me to cover more carefully, if it wasn't be able to be picked up, I'd be happy to do that.
I'll speak for myself, but I thought I could hear you perfectly fine. And
Thank you.
through the rest of council, if there's, it seems to be agreeance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, through to Director Coates.
I'm just wondering if you want to take a recess for a few minutes and I can give him a call and see what's happening with the electronic
Okay,
access.
so noting that the time is 6:26, we're going to recess for, what do you figure, 5 minutes or 10 minutes? 5. Okay, 5. So we'll recess till 6:31. Thank you. Okay, so through to council, we're now on to item 7 of our agenda, the consent agenda. I'll just simply make the motion that or actually, before I make that motion, is there any items being requested to be removed? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I'll make the motion that the recommendations listed for items 7A through 7D in the consent agenda be approved. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Gusselbreck. I will move to call in the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. That takes us on to public input period. So I will read the preamble and then we'll move to those registered remotely and then in person. So persons recognized by the chair to speak must first state their name and address for the record, may speak once for up to 2 minutes unless council resolves otherwise, and are limited to providing comments regarding items listed on the council agenda for this meeting. So this excludes all public hearing topics or items related to public hearing topics. Comments must be directed to the chair and are not to be directed to individual council members, staff, or the audience, and must not include personnel issues. So through to staff, are there any individuals registered remotely? No. Okay, there is, okay.
So we have Joan Jones.
Okay, so again, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joan Jones. I live at 7255 Ellesmere Drive. I'd like to begin just by saying I do understand that we cannot speak to the current Village South plans, bylaws 283 and 284, as a second reading for them has not yet been rescinded. Please know that I also understand that we cannot speak to the new plans in the revised proposal that may go to second reading tonight. I do hope that council will take into consideration during their discussion the fact that some 1,200 residents are against any density numbers that exceed the OCP.
Jones, I'm going to interrupt
Yes.
you there. You're still making reference to the public hearing item. So
Okay,
I
no
need you
reference
to
either?
limit
That's
your
fine.
remarks to other agenda items.
Yeah, that's fine. Through the mayor and council, would I be permitted, please, to speak to the date that staff is recommending for the public hearing? Last day of school, day before a
Just-
4-day long
If you can
weekend.
just stop your remarks at this point, I'm going to confer with our parliamentarian if that would be fair game, as it's not speaking to the content of the public hearing topic, but just to the date of a public hearing.
Thank you.
That would be up to council. Certainly, it sometimes, if there's comment made, it could lead into more discussion. It is a decision of council. It's not a subject of public hearing. It's not something that we would usually engage the public on.
Yes, I understand that, and I'm not trying to debate you here as well, but it is on a public agenda, and all items on our public agendas are fair game, excluding public hearing topics, yeah. So, did you have a specific question, Ms. Jones, regarding that item?
It's not really a question. I just, I'm not sure. I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, and just in case it slipped by them, that this is the last day of school. Teachers, are busy putting their classrooms to rest. Parents are hosting various end-of-year gatherings for the graduating kids and celebrating this last day. It's a very busy time. June 29th is also one day before a 4-day long weekend. So I think it's very likely that many families are preparing to leave town, perhaps for camping or to visit places or friends or, whatever they do, or maybe they even have company coming to their homes in Lantzville. So I feel it's borderline on asking too much of residents to ask them to voice their views on this particular date. It's also a lot to ask of our council, who also have busy schedules, families, and plans for the holiday weekend. So I respectfully ask that the council and staff consider a later date for this public hearing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any individuals in chambers that wish to speak? Okay, yeah, just come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jonathan Lerner, and I reside at 8354 Bayview Park Drive. I understand, as Joan said, what we can and cannot talk about, so I'm just going to echo Jones's comments that I believe it is an inappropriate date for the community. Many people are out of town, and in fact, that seems to be the case for most of the summer. I know council doesn't meet in August, so I would recommend either sometime in late July or early September. So thank you.
Okay. Any additional speakers in chambers? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on in our agenda. Okay, so that takes us to item 9 of our agenda, 9A specifically, which is bylaw number 302. So we have the staff recommendation that's subject to the public hearing input. Is someone prepared to make that motion? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
That District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180/2020, amendment bylaw 6935 Dickinson Road, number 302/2022, be given third reading.
Okay, is there a seconder to this? So seconded by Councillor Gusselbrecht. Discussion, so through to you, Councillor Savage, and then through to Councillor Gusselbrecht.
Yes, thank you. We've already been through this a couple of times, so I'm not going to repeat all the reasons that I opposed it, but I just wanted to make a few points. And the future study area designation of this land could have yielded some long overdue seniors-oriented small housing like cottages, perfect location for seniors close to Woodgrove, Lantzville Village, and the beach. Instead, we're getting yet more family houses, which is mostly all we have in Lantzville, and an amenity of $3,000 per lot. Just for those lots which exceed underlying zoning is inadequate amount. We have 14 amenities to pick from in the amenity document, so why do we continually get the low amenity of $3,000 per lot? And it's only for the lots above what the current zoning would allow. Plus, we've already set the precedent of acquiring amenities not in the amenities document, like traffic calming construction from Lot A, Dickinson Road, and the speed reader in this case, so nothing's limiting us to the amenities document, it appears anyway. Also, it's contradictory to the OCP not to require parkland above the mandatory 5%. All we seem to request is cash in lieu of 5% park, the same amount which is mandatory for subdivisions without rezoning. And cash in lieu is never more than 5%. And the cash in lieu is always much less than the market value of the parkland. If we had to buy the equivalent, it's about a third as much. So in the OCP, the thing I'm referring to, it states the district may apply a bonus density in residential areas outside special plan areas without amendment to this plan, meaning the OCP, where the development plan includes parkland acceptable to the district in addition to the required 5% dedication required under the Local Government Act, and a community amenity contribution is required as well. So anyway, I've gone over all that and given my reasons to oppose it. And I'll just say for the parkland, I'm looking for green corridors for future trails wherever we can in every single rezoning. So now the thing I'd like to point out here, I'd also like to see the $3,000 per lot for this applicant be applied only to those lots which are additional to the underlying zoning of 2,000 meters squared minimum lot size. It's unfair for the former planner to create a future study area. Then he said about 2 years later, it's no longer feasible to have one and we should just go with the residential zoning, but then stick properties within the zoning of future study areas with the zoning of 1 unit per 10 hectares. So this applicant, I think to be fair, because this is what's been done with other applicants, should only be paying the $3,000 for additional lots above what the underlying zoning of half acre or 2,000 meters squared would yield. So that would come to 2 or 3 lots, and that's it, which I know that contradicts my idea for more, but I believe in fairness, and I find it's very unfair anyone in the future study area that gets stuck with this. And we've already set the precedent of the underlying zoning, meaning the zoning that it was before the future study area. And that was 2,000 meters squared minimum lot size for this lot. And for the lot next door, Lot A, Dickinson Road, it was 1 unit, and that's it, because it had already been subdivided. That's why they paid the full amount. So anyway, I would like to see that. And the 10,000 towards the speed reader seems to be inadequate, as we were told it'll cost 15,000. Through chair to staff, Director Limshu, all that's required, or all that's been stated in this document, is that it's up to 24,000. Is it possible to charge just $3,000 per additional lot in terms of fairness?
Certainly, that's a discussion that as staff, we'll take direction from council if that's council's wish. To your point around fairness, in reviewing the previous rezoning applications, I believe staff followed what was previously negotiated and tried to be fair with the applicant for this particular application. Your point with respect to the speed reader, it is my understanding that the speed reader cost is anywhere between $8,000 to $9,000. So, contribution of $10,000 is certainly well within the cost of, certainly within covering the cost of a speed reader.
All right, and as a follow-up, if council has consensus to do this on the basis of just charging additional lots above the 2,000 meters squared, that will not require another public hearing because it already says in the documents up to 24,000. So it already says it can be anywhere from 0 to 24,000. Is that correct?
That's correct. The way the document currently reads, and as part of the package, there's a draft covenant which basically articulates the conditions and the provisions for the amenities related to this rezoning. For every new lot, the applicant would be required to pay $3,000.
Yeah,
if that condition changes, then certainly we'll have to amend the draft covenant to reflect that.
All right, thank you. Anyway, I would suggest that to council in the way of fairness. The precedent was Harvey Road, and it only paid the $3,000 for additional lots above what the half-acre, 2,000 meter squared zoning would allow. Only those additional lots it paid. So I think it's unfair that this one was rezoned to 1 unit per 10 hectares. So for the sake of working out the additional lots, it really should be based on what they're all being allowed to do, which is revert to the half acre. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So through to Councillor Gusselbreck, your turn if you wish to speak.
Thank you. Following up on Councillor Savage's comments, yes, I think green corridors are great. This subdivision moves the potential for Owen Road to daylight onto Shook Road and into the beautiful Nanaimo Park known as May Bennett. It's green on both sides, and most people walk on the side of the road, so they'll have a green corridor, hopefully daylighting onto Shook Road when that happens. I look at this, the main benefits I see of this subdivision are 2. housing, and jobs. We don't need to turn the radio on or visit social media for long to hear that housing is a crisis and everybody wants more housing. This is 8 lots. It's not a 250-unit apartment building like Parksville and Nanaimo are throwing up, it seems, at a rapid rate. This is 8 lots. Jobs. This construction is the biggest economic driver in BC. It may slow down, but it hasn't yet. This gives especially younger people the opportunity to start out on their career, whether it be a journeyman or an apprentice or simply cleaning up during construction to earn $20 to $25 an hour and much more, of course, if you have the qualification. So housing and lots. I would like to address some of the comments that I heard tonight during the public hearing, and I'll go from the most recent speakers backwards. Studies in parkland. Well, when we passed the zoning bylaw, as well as the OCP, there was a map, and I recall clearly council indicating approximately 9 different areas within Lantzville that council wanted to see parks increasing. This was not one of the areas. So that study was completed during the OCP, and council has followed it and voted in favor of that map as part of the zoning and OCP process. Speed readers, a red herring? No, I don't think so. I think it's a good cut of fish. I believe that it was the mayor who suggested this. I thought it was a good idea at the time. We know that Dickinson Road has problems with speeding. The previous subdivision will be putting in a concrete divider, a speed reading sign. Once again, that angry red face does get people to slow down. For those people who don't slow down, there's other law enforcement. But I agree with the mayor when he made that proposal. It's a good idea. Amenities. The $3,000, by the way, is on our amenity policy list. Council developed that list, that amenity policy, and there's other things on it, but the $3,000 is what it says. If council wishes to change it, council's at liberty to do that, but up till now, it hasn't. Last chance to develop a pedestrian walkway. I've addressed that. This will be a pedestrian walkway. We have one of the most beautiful parks in Nanaimo on our boundary. Rugby field, soccer field, football field, and acres of park where people walk their dogs every single day. It's a beautiful park, and this will give people in this area of Owen Road the opportunity to get over there more quickly. We didn't abandon anything for a cash buyout. The cash in lieu is mandated by our bylaws, 5%. It's the law. As I said, this area was not designated for an increase in parks. Green space. I heard a comment that we need green space here because of the overcrowded parks in Lantzville. Well, I can't agree with that statement. I live behind Copley Park, and I see maybe 7 dog walkers during the day. This is the largest park, leaving aside the foothills, of course. This is the largest park, and aside from in the afternoon some lovely voices of children playing, it's hardly utilized. So come on up to Copley Park and enjoy it. And if that's still too small for you, 1,200 acres in foothills adjoining the Woodlot 1475. I rarely meet somebody on the trail when I'm either out hiking or mountain biking. It's a great recreation area. Get up there, let's use it. And don't forget, we have a marine park. I believe some 9 acres that will be opening at some point in the future. Another great park in Lantzville to go and enjoy. So I believe we have lots of park space to enjoy. There were some comments and letters that we received connecting to Shook Road. Yes, that's going to be a great benefit of this subdivision. Parkland dedication. Well, if you dedicate park, then you reduce the number of lots available for housing. Housing is a priority. You remove that portion that you designate a park from taxation. You don't collect taxes on it. And those taxes go to service the parks and provide staff time to cut the lawn and cut the branches, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, Councillor Gaspar, that's about 7 minutes now. I don't know if you.
7,
you're getting
thank you.
close to wrapping it up.
I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
If there's additional speakers. Yeah, okay. Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
I'm going to support this application for the same reason I supported it before. There's, staff was not directed. I mean, as far as council, we've looked at as far as the OCP is concerned, we didn't give staff direction. This was an area that we identified wanting a park. There is a park right across the street. The beach is close by, and saddling the district with the park there, it's another park that we'd have to maintain. So for me, I still support this application like I did before. Thank you.
Additional speakers. Okay, I'll speak to it. In terms of, we've heard some comments about fairness. I believe that this application is being fairly dealt with in the sense that the adjoining lot that was recently approved for subdivision, is underway for subdivision, was required to put in an amenity for traffic calming. So in that spirit, it just seemed natural to continue along that thread and ask for something that would contribute to traffic calming in that same area, as it is a terrible stretch of road and still lots of speeders no matter what you do, but hopefully maybe one day something will work. In terms of community amenity contributions, I've had many discussions with people about this, and I think most people genuinely agree that $3,000 is light, but as it's being stated, it is in a policy or a community amenity contribution policy, and until council changes that, it's going to remain at $3,000. But under current market conditions, it's really light, and I think most people can agree with that. There's record profits being made from land development, yet it remains at $3,000. So, I think it's something that this council or future council should be looking at, especially while the real estate market remains hot. So, and land development is making lots of money. So, in terms of planning that area and other areas that are not included in our OCP, this is definitely something needs to be looked at and addressed. I've spoke to this before. In terms of doing an OCP review at some point in the future, I think it's paramount that we do this. It will clean up a lot of the issues that people have around, including council has around our current OCP, but it also will provide that clear direction on areas such as this, so we can better deal with them. But like I heard one speaker mention, we are setting precedents here, and it's truly that. This will now be the second lot that we are setting a precedent for this type of development in that area. Is it the right type of development? I'm not too sure. Has the community been consulted on this? No, they haven't. So I think it's something that we'll definitely have to work on in the future, and because like it was mentioned, there's still lots of developable land in that area, and it'd be nice to have some kind of direction around where we're going with that. In terms of parkland, not all parkland has to be developed into little tot lots and manicured parks. I look at the one on the corner of Sebastian, and I think it's quite lovely that it's just a treed lot. There's nothing wrong with a treed lot. Doesn't require or doesn't create a huge liability or burden to the municipality. But, you know, we should be making a greater concerted effort to maintaining green space, no matter how little and where it's located. But that's just my opinion. So those are my remarks for now. I'll open it up to additional speakers or first-time speakers before I go to second-time speakers. Okay. Second-time speakers? Okay. Hearing or seeing none, I'm going to move to calling a question, and this is on third reading. So all those in favor and opposed, noting that Councillor Savage is opposed, third reading carries. Okay, that takes us on to bylaw number 298. Oh, man. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. This is referred from the January 12th, 2022 and February 23rd, 2022 regular council meetings. Again, no mover or seconder is required. I'll just read the motion for the benefit of the viewership. That the second reading of District of Lantzville zoning bylaw number 180-2020, amendment, open bracket, miscellaneous, close bracket, bylaw number 298-2021 be rescinded. So that's, we don't need a mover or seconder on it, but in terms of speakers, so Councillor Gusselbrook and then Councillor Savage.
Yes, due to the size of the agenda, my motion is this motion be referred to the July, I believe it's July 6th meeting. If staff could confirm that that's the next regular meeting. Thank you.
I'll second that.
June 22nd is the next regular meeting.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The next regular meeting is June 22nd
Right, I'm still asking it to go to July the 6th.
and July 6th.
And I believe that was seconded by Councillor Savage. Okay, so debate or comment on just the date of the referral and the reason for it. So through to Councillor Gusselbrook. It's just because of the large agenda. Okay, Councillor Savage. Any additional questions, comments, debate on this? Okay, I'm going to call the question on the referral motion. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. All right, so that takes us in item C, which is bylaw 283. So again, there's a motion on the floor that was referred from May 4th, 2022 regular council meeting. For the viewership, I will read the motion that's on the floor. That the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150-2019 amendment, open bracket, Village South Special Plan Area, close bracket, bylaw number 283-2021 be given third reading. Okay. So that's on the floor. So as speakers, we have Councillor Gusselbrook.
Yeah, so, sorry, point of privilege, please.
Yeah, what's your point of privilege?
You just read the first, oh, I see.
So this is the motion that's on the floor. I just read it out so the people watching and also people in the gallery know what we're talking about. But this is the motion that was referred back to staff to deal with that.
All right, so just to clarify, you read that District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150-29, an amendment, Village South Special Area Plan Bylaw number 283 be given third reading.
That is the motion that's on the floor.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So speakers list, we have Councillor Gusselbrook. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm going to propose a procedure here to maybe shorten the amount of time that council needs to deal with each of these 4 recommendations by staff. They are recommendations. My motion to start is that recommendation, I'll call it 1, that the third reading be withdrawn, and recommendation 2, that the second reading passed in September be rescinded, that those be heard as one motion. If I have a seconder, I'll explain why.
Through to Director Coates, I don't know if we can actually take them separately because they're dealing with two separate bylaws, but
Actually,
lean
it is the
towards-
same bylaw. So the staff had considered this, and it was just going to make the report too lengthy to explain all the nuances. But the motion on the floor is a bylaw in one form for third reading. And the staff recommendation is to withdraw that motion, so that's still that, we'll call it the former version of the bylaw. And the motion to rescind second reading, it's as it was in the former bylaw. So those both, the two motions he's combining, the staff recommendation, what we'll call 1 and 2, are the same bylaw. It's when you get into the third recommendation and the fourth recommendation that it's the bylaw in the new form. And so while technically they could all be combined and all done together, staff preference was to have them separate because of exactly the question you raised, that they are two different bylaws.
okay.
So I didn't hear that it can't be done. What's the
Well,
ruling by
council would
the
have
chair?
to agree, and it'd be by unanimous consent.
Well, what you're doing is you're making, there's a motion on the floor that the bylaw be given third reading. Now you're making a motion that the motion on the floor, so it's exactly, you're making the motion on the floor exactly as it stated in item 1, and then it's, and further that, the second reading, and as it goes on, be rescinded. So if you don't get a seconder, I guess then you'll know that there isn't support amongst council to
So if
to
there's a
combine those.
seconder, I'll proceed.
Yeah.
Okay, so make your motion then, Councillor Gaspar.
Made the motion, I see a seconder.
That wasn't formally made, it was just you're proposing.
Well, the motion is that, I'll read it, that the motion on the floor that the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150-219 Amendment, Village South Special Area Plan Bylaw number 283, 2021 be given third reading, be withdrawn, and that the second reading of the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150-219 Amendment, Village South Special Plan Area Bylaw number 283, 2021, given September 22nd, 2021, be rescinded.
Is there a seconder to that? Second by Councillor Wilson. Okay, for discussion then, Councillor Gaspar.
Yeah, simply, we're peeling back the onion. The motion for tonight was a third reading. And although I might be tempted to want to vote on that tonight, in that I think that the earlier proposal by the developer was a better one than the one that's before us tonight, I'm persuaded that we get on with it, hear what council has to say, debate this, and move on to whether we want to give it second reading and whether we want to set a date for the public hearing. So those are my reasons. Speed up the process a bit.
Okay, Councillor Wilson.
No, I agree. We're just simply wanting to, by doing this, is just taking a step back to take a step forward so that that it can move to a public hearing. So if that's what we so choose as a council. So yeah, I support voting on these together.
Any additional speakers? So Councillor Proctor and then Councillor Savage.
I support hearing these two motions together for the sake of efficiency. We have a long meeting, and I think that it would be in our best interest to deal with both motions at once.
Okay, and through to Councillor Savage.
I was going to say something humorous, but I refrain. But I won't be supporting it. It would take mere seconds to do them separately. So thank you.
Well, together or apart, it doesn't seem to really matter. So anyways, is there any additional comments, debate on this item? Just taking the two motions together. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, knowing that Councillor Savage is opposed, those it's withdrawn and second readings rescinded. So now we're on to the next motion. If any member of council is wishing to make the next motion. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bart.
I believe we need a vote. Did we take a vote? Okay, thank you.
We just voted on those two motions.
Thank you.
That's why I said.
Oh, as a point of privilege, please.
What's your point of privilege? Councillor Savage?
My understanding, we were just voting on whether or not to combine them.
Not
That's
at all.
what the vote was.
So unless council wants to reconsider that, the vote that we just conducted was to withdraw third reading, and it was then to rescind second reading. It was pretty clear.
Okay,
But there
so,
seems to be a bit of confusion at the table, so I don't know what
yeah,
we
well,
should be doing here, if we should be proceeding ahead, if there's this much confusion.
I'd just like to revote because I didn't know we were voting on that. I'll change my vote, but I would just like to point out we never did vote on whether to combine the two.
I
It
believe
was
the
moved-
advice,
Hold on, Director Coates. It was moved and seconded, those two motions, and then we voted. Okay. So we'll do a reconsideration vote on the last vote. So I guess I can just do it through section 131 because I do have a member of council who was confused on the vote and would like to reconsider his vote. So with that being said, those two motions are back on the floor. And is there any further debate, comment before I call the question? And again, clearly stating here again, we are voting on withdrawing third reading and rescinding second reading. Okay. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. So moving on in the recommendations. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gaspar.
Yes, the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150, 219, Amendment, Village South Special Area Plan, Bylaw number 283, 2021, be given second reading as amended.
Do we have a seconder to that? Okay, a second by Councillor Wilson. We'll start a speakers list. So Councillor Gusbrook, go ahead.
Thank you. We may recall that several weeks ago, there was a motion passed by council that staff go back to the table, so to speak, with the developer of the Village South and discuss various items, including density, seniors housing, school road, and come back with a report to council. Tonight's agenda is that report that's come back with a change in proposal. Without getting into the merits of the proposal as amended, I am in favor of having the public once again listen, have the chance of a public hearing and hearing what they have to say. Thank you.
Okay, through to Councillor Wilson as a seconder.
Just to echo those comments, I've read through the material, and for me, I think a lot of the things as far as, if I can just go back here a page, with regards to the motion that I made, have been addressed. The drainage concerns in the letter written by Williams and Associates, by I believe it was Brian Henning. help me better understand, and should hopefully help others understand that there's a process behind the development that involves professional engineers, so I'm comfortable with that. Also, the school road thing, which was a concern of mine, not wanting to see the road go through. I see the developer has brought down some of the density. And ultimately, what surrounds the affordable housing and seniors assisted living is something that can be addressed more so later, but overall, that language is included in the zoning now, so I'm comfortable with seeing how the community comes back with the changes that have been made.
Okay, additional speakers on this item? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, my comments on this revised proposal is not much of council's direction at the May 4th meeting, or the May 4th motion has been addressed in the revised proposal of Village South. So the May 4th motion reads that the motion on the floor be referred back to staff to work with the developer to improve their application and address the community's concerns, not limited to drainage, Lantzville School Road, density concerns, and stronger language around affordable housing and seniors assisted living. So still no guarantee of seniors supportive housing in spite of many residents requesting it. And on May 4th, a number of us in council stated it had to be in this proposal, and it's not. Nothing's changed. It's not in at all. I thought that was a deal breaker for some, and it's not there. Nothing's changed. The second item is there is a small 100-unit decrease in Area C, but there may be a density increase in Area A and B. And there's third one is there's no guarantee of affordable housing, which could be provided by something as simple as guaranteed tiny homes in a cluster housing format. Number 4, nothing was addressed with drainage. There will be a big pipe installed from the highway to Jack's Beach, which will also take drainage from Clark Med. And the next one, extending School Road, that was already dealt with on May 4th. So there was really nothing that has been changed except the very small density decrease of 100 units, which is a far cry from what residents, 95.8% of 1,221 residents, they called to be in the range of up to the 389 units plus 100 units for senior supportive housing. Well, there's 0 senior supportive housing guaranteed, and 632 is a far cry from 389. So that's a difference of 243 more units, which is a 62% increase in the 389 figure. Now, I've done a summary of exactly what's changed in this revision, and it's not much. So we've gone from 732 units to 632 purportedly. That's 100 units less, maybe. And the park's gone from 4.34 hectares up to 4.85 hectares. That's 0.51 hectares more. The play field, plus $1 million, has gone to no play field, plus 1.5 million cash. So that's a difference of no play field and 500,000 more cash. The $3,000 per lot amenity has gone from 2,196,000 down to 1,896,000. That's 300,000 less cash. So the total difference in cash is we're getting 200,000 more in cash. So just to summarize that, that's 100 units less, 0.51 hectare acres more park, no play field, and then total $2,000 more cash, and that's it. So that's the summary of it, but the big one for residents is the density, and reducing it by 100 units is not following the council motion, its direction to address the community's concerns. And for my feelings are, I'd like to see this referred back to staff to work on the density reduction and the guarantee of the seniors' housing. That's a deal breaker for me. It's got to have the seniors' supportive housing. That's what the OCP is called for. That's what residents have asked for 20 years. They want it in the village. That's seniors'
Councillor Savage,
supportive
that's
housing.
your, achieved your speaking time there. Through to Councillor Proctor.
Thank you. I can support this motion. I read through the proposed changes by the developer, and I look forward to hearing what the community has to say about it.
Okay, so just give me a second here. All right, so here we are back at second reading with some proposed amendments. It's been an interesting ride thus far with this application. When we were originally at second reading, the whole premise to go to the public hearing was, you know, we'll deal with the details later. Let's get on with it and talk to, or find out from the public what the public wants or what they think, about this application, and let's listen to them and get the feedback, and we'll work with it and go from there. Now, fast forward to today's meeting and what we have before us, and I don't see an application that has really changed all that much. I'm concerned about a number of things within the application still. I don't think the direction council gave to staff to follow up the developer was done as I believe we had requested. And even in the staff report itself, I believe it's on page 56 of our agenda under the proposal, last paragraph. It says, as per council direction, the applicant has discussed, so the applicant, not staff or council, has discussed the various items identified in the council motion C-2262 and has revised the proposal to amend our OCP and zoning bylaws to establish a new Village South Special Plan area to be attached to the OCP and corresponding Village South Special Plan Area zone, and so on. So the interesting thing about that is even at our last meeting, there was some debate over who should be writing our bylaws or policies and so forth. And here we are, it looks like our applicant is writing our bylaws, which I find quite interesting. But this isn't unusual. Like our bylaws and policies are typically written by staff, and again, they come before council. Council basically reviews them, sometimes revises them and rubber stamps them. That's not unusual, and we've done this before with other applications. But again, who's really writing this policy or this ultimately this bylaw? It's the developer, so it's not council. Go back to the original second reading and let's let the community have their say and let's listen to them and so forth. At that time, it was interesting because again, we'll deal with whatever changes need to happen after that. And now since then, I've also heard, well, if council wasn't totally prepared to accept what was in the original first and second readings, we should never accepted it in the first place. And it should never have proceeded on to public hearing. So that's where I'm at now. I don't accept it for what it is now. So how can I, in good conscience, move forward to a public hearing knowing that, if we're gonna make all the changes and kick it back to the developer, it should be done now. I'm not, I don't accept it as where it is. I have issues with the zoning bylaw as it's written. Yeah, I don't know why it's not somewhat consistent to the Clark Med subdivision. In the zoning bylaw, it clearly states in the table the total number of units. In this one, on page 30, there's no table clearly stating the total number of units. But I have been told that, oh, that's okay, we'll just take care of it at the next step, which would be the phase development agreement, or perhaps we'll amend the zoning bylaw to have it in the table. Well, I don't see it in there, and I have no comfort in moving forward until it is in there. These are important details. It gives certainty to everybody involved, all stakeholders, all residents of Lantzville. You know, I'm not interested in you know, moving forward until some of these details are worked out. You know, I go to page 58 of our agenda, and we have the table comparing the 732 units to the 632 units. And I go halfway down that page, and I look at the, or actually more than that, about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way down that page, and it talks about the cash contributions. And you know, on the left-hand side with the 732 units, it talks about the 2,196,000. That would be the cash contribution. And then it goes to the other side of the 632, and it says, okay, this is going to be, oh, where is it there? Well, it's broken. Oh, yeah, down at the bottom there, it goes down to 3,396,000. But what's interesting there is on the left-hand side with the 732 units, it just leaves out the $1 million contribution with the playing field. And I know that sometimes, you know, information and can be difficult to keep track of in the semantics and so forth. But the interesting thing is in the last community flyer that we got from the developer, actually, I think I brought it this evening, if I can find it in my, yeah, here it is. It states right in there, just make sure I find it here. Oh, geez, yeah, here it is. So I thought, did I grab the wrong one? Oh, here it is. Yeah. So on the last page, under parks and open space, the second bullet, it says 3.3 acres and $1 million towards construction of a playing field. So in my eyes, or my view anyways, that would be a contribution. So I don't really see the change. And the interesting thing is we're actually reducing the number of units and the contribution's about the same. It's rather confusing in a bizarre way. But anyways, you know, even with the 1.5 million suggested that it goes towards infrastructure, that's basically going towards the bare land. That's no prep done whatsoever to those lands. We just take the community service lands as is, and the developer has to do nothing. And that's my understanding, and I've reviewed that with staff, and it's, I believe that's been confirmed. So are we getting more? Are we getting less? I really don't know. But again, the information isn't necessarily complete for me. The other thing, and my time is probably running out, is just with the number of apartments. You know, one of the biggest inconsistencies I believe exists here is between our OCP and the proposed development is the apartment situation. And just doing some rough calculations, and these are my calculations, nobody else's. If I can find them here. Anyways, I've crunched the numbers based on the new map that was provided in our agenda package with respect to the Village South plan. And I calculated about in areas, it would be B and C, about 59% of the total units for the, or actually will be apartments, and they will be in that area. So 59% of the total dwelling units for the whole development that will be concentrated in areas B and C will be in the form of apartments or condos. That highly contradicts our OCP. So why we'll be moving forward, you know, passing second reading at this point, it baffles me. So at that point, I'll just close my remarks with that, and we'll open it up to additional speakers. And I apologize for council for going over. So additional speakers? So Councillor Gus.
Thank you. once again, I think we owe it to the public to hear what they have to say. I disagree totally that staff hasn't done their job by going back to the applicant. They did go back to the applicant. There's a further proposal. Staff has reiterated numerous times when it was suggested by various council members that, you know, the developer should be giving more amenities. Staff has stated you can't sell zoning. You can't force a developer to give amenities in exchange for zoning. You can't hold them up like we're Mexican bandits or something until we can squeeze something more from them. That's not proper. Staff did its job. The report is here. It's a fulsome report. I also take exception to the mayor's comment that staff brings bylaws to council and council rubber stamps them. Those were his words, rubber stamps. I take offense to that. We spend a lot of time at this table, not just at this table, but in preparation to meetings, reviewing numerous bylaws. Just look at the quarterly review we do of the bylaws, the Good Neighbor bylaw, the original OCP, the zoning bylaw. I can go on and on and on. We don't rubber stamp them. There's fulsome debate at this table. We don't all get what we want, but council makes a decision and we move on. I also disagree with the statement that this process is not consistent with Clark Med. We recall that process. We recall that a further proposal came back from the developer, and that was considered. That's what's happening here exactly. If I recall, the main complaint, the petition, was the density. Numbers like 1,500 units were being bandied about in the community, in both social media and otherwise, when in fact, the number 732 came back, and we heard from the public at the public hearing what they thought. Well, it's come down again to 632. As I stated, I don't necessarily think this is a better deal in some respects. We're going to miss out on $2 million in DCCs because we've reduced the number of units by 100. You pay $21,000 for a DCC. We're missing another $2 million in that $3,000 amenity. So it isn't good, but there is a point I'll bring out, and as I said, I don't want to debate this at this point, but the original proposal was 1 hectare for community services. The Urbanics report did a calculation, said they looked at what they thought was a comparable and said $6 a square foot, maybe something more. I believe that calculation is totally wrong. And not to criticize the authors, but they didn't know that we have only 2 properties in Lantzville that are community services. They went on the market after this report. They're up on Lantzville Road. One's 1.7 acres, the other 1.3. And the price per square foot that they're selling for is $44 a square foot. So what is the proposal? Well, the original was 1 hectare. The new proposal is simply 3.65 hectares. The city can do, or the district can do what they want with it, but certainly there's going to be community service land, and these properties on Lantzville Road were zoned community services. So using that calculation, using the market, that's a $4.4 million benefit, amenity, not a benefit, an amenity that this district is getting. That is substantial. So looking at all of these things, I'm not happy with all of them, but I think that's one key point that I am happy with. And accordingly, I want to see this go to a further public hearing and that we pass second reading tonight.
Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I have no idea why we're sending this back to a public hearing when it's changed so little. As I say, 95.8% of the respondents were targeting that range of 254 to 289 units with 100 units of seniors supportive housing. So we're sending it back with next to no changes at all. What on earth makes anyone think they're going to change their mind for what they said before? 662 is not much different than 732 when you've got your mind on 389 units. So
Point of order.
now the other thing here is
Sorry,
that
point of order has been called, Councillor Savage. What's your point of order,
The
Councillor
units are 632, not 662.
okay, excuse me, that's not a point of order. If you wait your turn, if you have a
Okay,
correction to
Councillor
make.
Savage, point of order was called, so I'll deal with it. Yeah, if you can just simply wait and we can correct it after he's finished
Well,
speaking.
if there's a misstatement being made, that's why I'm calling the point of order.
Then we'd be interrupting everyone every night for every 2 minutes. So just wait your turn, please. It's not a
Okay,
point of
Councillor
order.
Savage, I'm dealing with it. So ultimately, it's, again, if I feel like if it's a big correction needs to be dealt with right at that very moment, sure, I think that's fair game. But I do believe, you know, we probably all make errors, and myself included. And if it needs to be clarified for the record, then I think it's best to not interrupt the speaker and just let them speak, and then we can correct the misinformation following that speaker. So go ahead, Councillor Savage.
So now the other thing, there's some changes to this that has to be made before it, if it is going to proceed at all. And I've got amendments prepared to make those changes. They alter some contradictions in the documents and so on. Now, there were a number of changes made to the proposed zoning bylaw document, and the proposed OCP amendment brochure document. No one told council about these changes, and only a few of them were selectively highlighted in yellow, but most changes were not. And these are the key two changes no one told us about. So if everyone could turn to page 89 of the agenda, that's page 89. This is section 3.1 of the OCP amendment document. You'll notice that the land area for Area A, Area B, and Area C has been changed. The land area is now the gross area. They used to be net area after subtracting roads. Area A was 9.3 hectares, but now it's 11.69 hectares. Area B was 3.02 hectares, but now it's 3.58 hectares. Area C was 3.2 hectares, but is now 3.76 hectares. So I ask why you don't do something like this for no good reason. And there is now nowhere in any legal document the old net land areas. They are gone for good. Now, if everyone could turn to page 130 of the agenda, this is the new proposed zoning. Notice section 4, area B, states maximum density is 100 units per hectare. It says nothing else. And the only place which states how many hectares in area B is page 89, which I just referred to, where it states the area B is now 3.59 hectare. This allows area B 359 units now, a 57 unit increase over the previous 3.02. 302 units. And now look at sections 4A and 4B, which are brand new sections we were never told about. Section 4B reads, notwithstanding subsection 4 and 4A, within area A, a minimum of 1 unit shall be permitted on each parcel that meets the applicable parcel size requirements under subsection 14. So notwithstanding means in spite of or an exception to section 4, where the density is defined. So it supersedes that now. And it allows the developer to create as many parcels as possible within Area A, and each parcel is permitted 1 unit. So Area A is now 116,900 meters squared. The lot sizes in subsection 14 range from 150 to 300 meters squared. So this technically will allow hundreds upon hundreds of lots, over 500 duplexes in Area A, over 600 townhouses in Area A, and so on. So this has to be cleaned up, where it's stated clearly what the density limits are for Area A, Area B, and Area C, right in the zoning bylaw, and I've got amendments to do it.
So Councillor Savage, you've exceeded your speaking time,
Yep.
but do you know, Director Limshu, your hand is up? I don't know if there's points to clarify or.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, with council's indulgence, perhaps I can clarify some comments that have been made.
Yeah, if you're providing information, sure, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Where did it go? Sorry about that. I'm just having some technical difficulties. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, can council see the plans on the screen? Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so so the plans that you see before you are what's in the bylaw that went for public hearing. So there's 3 areas: Area A, B, and C. So Area A, Area B, Area C. At the time that staff did the calculations for the unit count, it was predicated on the net area, and the reason for that is that the plan basically had the road network layers on it, and so what the applicants did was they showed a potential road network on each of the properties throughout the entire site. If you do the math, the development of those roads is approximately 20% of the land. And so, if you take the gross that's being shown and subtract 20%, you get the net. And what you'll find is that the net areas are equal to what was previously outlined in the document. And so based on those net areas, the unit counts are calculated based on the proposed densities outlined in the zoning bylaw, outlined on page 130. So moving forward, as you'll see from this document, the plan did change slightly. So I should have highlighted this. So what you'll notice in this general area here, there's this little divot within the boundary between what is going to be, I'll call it the potential district lands, this area here, and this property line. The applicant, in reviewing their application, amended the road configuration slightly. And so rather than having this divot, the road has this gentle curve now. What the applicant also did is they took the proposed roads off what would be the municipal sites, and that contributed towards the increase in the overall land area that would come to the district. The other main point is that for the rest of the site, the boundaries haven't changed one bit. It's just this area. And so to highlight that fact, this little divot is what was presented at the public hearing, and this curve is what was amended. And so when you see the actual difference in area is still the same. And as I mentioned, when you take the gross areas that are shown on this plan and subtract 20% for roads and so forth, you will find that the overall net area for development is virtually identical. So, you know, I just want to make sure that council's aware that, yeah, as far as the boundaries are concerned, that hasn't changed between, and with the exception of this area here, the boundaries for the different areas are pretty much the same. I guess the last point I want to make too is that with respect to the play field, the original proposal was for the construction of the play field. The $1 million, if you look through the documents, it says approximately, you'll see that play field to be constructed, and in brackets, approximately $1 million. Well, that $1 million was an approximate estimate for the construction of the play field. But the amenity that was actually on the table under the, we'll call it the 732 proposal, was for the construction of a play field. The big change, really, when you compare the amenities package between the 732 and the 632, is the fact that the applicants are no longer proposing to construct the play field, but rather provide a cash contribution to the sum of $1.5 million. And as further outlined within the staff report, the cost of actually constructing a play field will vary depending on the bells and whistles that ultimately gets included in that plan, and whether or not the play field is natural turf versus artificial turf. There's some rough estimates within the staff report, and that's predicated on estimates provided to us from our neighbors at City of Nanaimo. You may recall there's a recent article of the City of Nanaimo proposing 2 artificial turfs in South Nanaimo. And so their staff was gracious enough to share some of those cost numbers, and staff used those numbers to try to aid council in understanding, you know, the main difference between the two proposals. So while $1.5 million plus the $3,000 per unit total seems like a lot of money, there might be a big gap difference between actually constructing the play field at the end of the day. So while we get the land, yes, that's great. We get cash. That land may sit vacant for a period of time without that play field being able to be constructed because there isn't sufficient funds to do so. So with that, I'll stop sharing.
Okay. And just so everybody is clear on my information, again, the reference I made towards the $1 million towards the construction of the playing field came from the flyer, this Village South application, Show Your Support for a Vibrant Village and Housing Options flyer. And this was pre-public hearing, and clearly states 3.3 acres and $1 million towards construction, so towards construction of a playing field. So I don't believe there was ever the intent to construct a playing field. So that was my point. And the intent was to basically give $1 million towards the construction, whether the district did it or not, or does it or not, whatever.
If I may follow up with Director
Yeah, go ahead,
Lemchu while we're on
Councillor
this, before we leave this topic. So there was nothing you said, Director Lemchu, in all of that showed it's 632 units at all. So my only points before we get on to the solution is that any changes in a revised document, council should be told of. I had to find these by laying out both documents, going through them page by page, and I believe I'm the only one that spotted these things. So at any rate, you take area B, there's nothing there defines if it's net area or gross area, and it's very common from the OCP to have gross density calculations based on the gross land area units per hectare. So the solution is to do what area, or rather section 5 calls for on this page 130, and it simply says, notwithstanding section 4, the maximum number of dwellings within area C shall not exceed 100 units. So there's nothing preventing doing that for area A and area B. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So,
You know, I think there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can set the max limits for each area, as I believe you're indicating. You could also look at a overarching limit to say that notwithstanding section 4, the maximum number of units for areas A, B, and C combined shall not exceed 632. You know,
right. So, and can you, what's required for you to do that then? To put that in motion form, or?
You know, I think for clarity's sake, it would be appropriate to put it in motion form. That way staff can make the necessary change.
Okay, can I make that motion now then?
Technically, we're on amending the OCP. So I think,
Yes,
I think you're
that's-
referencing the zoning document.
So that would be
Councillor
best
Savage?
in the
That's
zoning
correct.
bylaw. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers on this item? Okay, and again, not to be repetitive, you know, those are some of my concerns as well, as around how do we definitively define the limits essentially. So, you know, it's come back as 632, but nowhere is it really stated that that's what it is. So for me, again, similar to the Clark Med zoning bylaw amendment, having that a similar table where it basically identifies the total number of units, and then with each specified area, it has the units attached. Like we're already 1/3 of the way there with this application, in the sense that we've defined how many units will be in area C, but we seem to be avoiding areas A and B. So again, that's concerning, and you know, how we arrive at specific numbers, or where we put those specific numbers into the document. I don't know. I'm looking to staff to provide us with that guidance.
Yeah, you know, certainly we can clarify or add a section as just discussed to ensure that it's clear for everyone in terms of the total build out numbers.
And just as a follow-up, just with some of the changes that were made in the Appendix 2 Village South document, you know, some of them I'll actually say I like. Even just some of the graphics have changed, and just the way to present it, I think, is a little bit more clear, and gives maybe a bit understanding to, or a bit better context to what's being proposed. So, you know, for the public, I don't know if they are aware that a lot of the, or some of the images anyways, have changed. And the one I'm specifically referring to, if I can find it here, it's 3. Oh, where is it? Oh, I've lost it. A lot of paper. Here it is. Yeah, so under project highlights, page 69 of our agenda. So that's a new graphic. Again, it just shows the new parkland configuration or community service plan configuration, speaks to or shows what you're referring to, Director Limshu, just the smoothing of that boundary. So just having more of an arc rather than a bit of a zigzag. It also shows a little bit more the different areas and the proposed number of buildings. And that estimate I gave earlier about the apartments, condos, that's just my calculation based on counting up the number of buildings and so forth in those areas, and doing a little bit of math and so forth. And that's what I came up with, is about 59% of the total development will be in the form of apartments or condos. So I think Councillor Gusselbrecht, you had your hand up, and then I'll.
Well,
open
since
to
it
the rest.
seems that somebody's talking about an amendment, but it's with the zoning portion, and since we've had, it seems like a long discussion with respect to the OCP second reading, I would like to move the motion, that the motion be called.
As a point of order, please.
If you can say your point of order.
We had the spirit last meeting of a conciliatory spirit. I've got an amendment to make for this OCP motion, and it's cutting off the discussion before everyone's finished. So we still have tons of time. We postponed a motion, so we'd have lots of time. It's only not even 8 o'clock. So I'd like to be able to make my amendment motion, please.
Councillor Wilson?
Just a point of privilege. This plugin's not working. I was just wondering how I can get this. Is there an extension cord that needs to go to be brought to it? Sorry, but yeah. There is a plug-in here, but it just needs normally there's an extension cord. I thought that we. That's not an option.
You might be able to reach it from the front. Probably just kind of like right there. You probably pull it forward a bit. It seems to be enough. Well, hold on here. Hold on. So you can unplug the phone. Oh no, that's just a phone cord.
Wait. This might give me life. Let's see. Just hold on. Might work.
We got it.
Might work.
Have to be light.
That works.
Okay, so we have power restored to a laptop. Okay, so Councillor Savage, you have an amendment.
Yes, and I have it here written for Director Coates, which I'll hand it to her in a sec. And this is for the purpose of cleaning up the language in the OCP amendment document. There's a contradiction here where we're getting an increase of parkland, but it says on page 89 that it's being reduced. So
perhaps read your motion.
anyway,
and we'll get it on
I'm
the
just
floor.
explaining it. Yep.
Yeah.
So that the motion on the floor be amended on agenda page 89, section 3.1 of the official community plan amendment document by replacing the words "and trails is 21% of the net site area" with the words 3.85 hectares.
Okay, is there a seconder for this? Okay, I'll go ahead and second it. We'll get it read back, Councillor Gusselbrecht.
And you want me to read it, Mark? All right.
Director Coates will figure out the correct preamble or wording to go before your motion.
Get ready. So the change, or what was proposed, is to make it in reference to the motion that's on the floor. And so it would be that the motion on the floor be amended by adding, quote, "and as further amended in Appendix 2, comma, in 3.1, zoning, comma, parks, comma, greenways, and community lands," by striking, quote, "and trails is 21% of the bracket net bracket site area," and replacing with 3.85 hectares. So I don't know if you've got page 89 of your agenda open. It's in that little green shaded box. So then that sentence would read, "The total area dedicated to public parks, trails," sorry. I'm on the trails, comma, and community use is 3.85 hectares. So again, do you want me to repeat the amendment motion again? You got it?
Through to council, is any member of council wishing to have the amendment read back? Okay, hearing or seeing none? No, we don't.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so, and it was seconded by myself. Discussion on the amendment. Go ahead.
Yeah, this
Councilor
is nothing but a minor wording change. All it does is it aligns this phrase with, it contradicts the fact that we're now getting 3.8 or 4.85 hectares total. And it's a contradiction to say that that's 21% of the net site area, which indicates it's less. You don't want these contradictions. You want it to be clear the amount we're getting. That's all.
Okay, any additional speakers? As the seconder, I'll forgo my turn. Councilor Gusbrecht, go ahead.
Yes, Chair. Through the chair to staff, to Director Limshu, could you please comment on this proposed amendment and whether there's any apparent contradiction? It seems to me that this green heading is simply, is that even part of the document aside from a description? Isn't what's the important part is set out in the white portion of that page?
That's correct. Having said that, I believe the proposed change that's being recommended by or suggested by Councillor Savage, I think it's appropriate. Instead of using percentage, we're referencing an actual area.
Okay, so Councilor Proctor, I noticed your hand was up.
Council Gusbrock asked the questions that I were going to ask. Thank you.
Okay. All right, additional debate, questions on the amendment motion? Okay, hearing or seeing none, I will move to call in question. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. Okay,
And another quick amendment, please.
sure, go ahead.
This is a referral motion that the motion on the floor be referred back to staff to work with the developer to improve their application in the following ways. Number one, reduce the density in order for the total units to be closer to the official community plans range of 254 to 389 units, plus 100 units of seniors supportive housing. Number two, 100 units of seniors supportive housing must be guaranteed. And that's it.
Is there a seconder to the amendment? Or sorry, referral motion? Okay, I will second the referral motion, so discussion is limited on.
Yes, this
really
is.
just a
Sorry,
reason.
could I have the motion repeated?
Oh, yeah, it's.
sorry, as you handed this to us, you said skip the last line, so I'm going to scribble that out because that wasn't in what you stated.
And perhaps I will get you to read this one back. Thank you.
That the motion on the floor be referred back to staff to work with the developer to improve their application in the following ways. Item 1, reduce the density in order for the total units to be closer to the official community plan's range of 254 to 389 units, plus 100 units of senior supportive housing. Item 2, 100 units of seniors supportive housing must be guaranteed.
Okay, so a discussion on amendment. So I'll go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, thank you. I'm just following up with what I heard at the May 4th meeting, where a number of us, including Councillor Wilson, stated that the 100 units of senior supportive housing, or some senior supportive housing, must be guaranteed in the Village South development. And we've got this revision back, and it's not guaranteed at all. It's just just simply an allowed use. And the other one is, there's just absolutely no point sending this back to public hearing where we've got such a small reduction in density, where people clearly said they want it closer to the 254 to 389 units plus the 100 units of senior supportive housing. So it's not that much difference, 489 to come down. And I keep saying, I said this in September 22nd, that I really want this to be successful. But if you've got 95.8% of 1,221 respondents that are absolutely dead set against this, it's caused animosity and trouble in the community. Why on earth wouldn't we want to get it right? And I also heard last meeting to follow the will of the people. The will of the people was made clear as a bell, that they want the lower density, and the amenities are not as important. They want the lifestyle, the peaceful community. A lot of us have come from these communities that are ultra busy and apartment buildings and so on. We don't want, we moved here for that reason. If we want all this stuff, we would have just stayed where we were when where we used to live. So anyway, I'm doing this for good. I want this to be we also said last week, we want community consensus. So this will not achieve it. Just get that density down a bit. And the 100 units, you see, it counts for the density. There's the origin at the Longwood. I checked it today, right on their website. It said it's got assisted living, and it's got memory care. So that's a type of care, right? In other words, you've got a certain degree of looking after seniors, and that's a very profitable, establishment. There's no reason why that couldn't be done here. And there's your 100 units of seniors housing. And the reason it's so good and so important, it lightens the footprint of the population. Instead of families with dogs, trucks, et cetera, traffic, 2 cars, and so on, it's a light footprint where a lot of them won't have cars. Most of them won't have cars living there. Almost all of them won't, and they'll walk into the village, contribute economically to the village far more than families with cars that always drive to Woodgrove. And so it's profitable, it counts as 100 units, and it's something, I can't tell you how long I've heard this. Back in the 90s, I heard this. We want to have seniors looked after in the village. That's where we want our seniors' care. So you can walk into the village, end your last days in the place where you spent a lot of your life. So that's all. I'm not asking a lot. Just see if we can't reduce the density so that people will start supporting it. That's the key issue, is the density. And then guarantee that seniors, and then it can be done by next meeting. which is June 18th, I believe. We can revisit it then with a bit of revised agreement. It was done fast the last time. From May 4th, I think this thing arrived May 21st or even earlier, was the date on the letter with the revision. So that's all I'm asking, just give it another chance. Let's not waste this public hearing with more everyone having to come out and oppose it and so on. Let's just get something that we can, people like me can say, hey, it's not what I wanted, but at least it's getting closer, it's better than it was, and we'll start getting members in the community saying that too, I guarantee it. So, people have been waiting for this development for so long. Let's get something that they can support, and let's follow through with those two things, follow the will of the people, and let's get consensus with the community and on council. There's not a lot to ask, can be done quickly. Thank you.
As a seconder, I can support this. Again, I'm going back and looking at some of the new graphics that have been included in the new appendix to Village South document. And again, I kind of like these graphics better. I think they work better. But, when I look at them closely, as I looked at them closely before, and especially Area B with the 300 units slated for that area, I tally it up and there's basically 9 buildings there, and then there seems to be some townhomes or row homes in there as well. But my estimates, it looks like there'd be about 280 apartment buildings just in that area behind the proposed grocery store commercial area. When you look at that and do the math, it works out to be, for the 9 buildings, about 31 units per building. I think the area as you go towards Wiles Road, maybe that's where some of that density can be curbed and still keep some of that density along the corridor coming down Ware Road close to the mixed or proposed mixed use. I don't really have any significant issue with the mixed use side of things or Area C, reducing it to 100 units. There, when you factor out, there's some, looks like some townhomes, row homes nestled in going towards the school, but leaves about, I think, about 94 units over 7 buildings. That's 13 units a building, and that's probably where you're going to see more of that affordable housing in that mixed use context. There could be some pretty cool trendy loft style buildings there too, who knows, but which will cost a lot more, I'm sure. But there's a possibility for affordable housing in there. But where I see the trimming coming from would be Area B. And especially, while it's so contrary to our current OCP, the limited number of units, basically 280 units of condo apartments in that area, it just doesn't mesh, doesn't fit. And I think we can reduce it down to the limited number of quality apartments or condos as indicated in our OCP by having a second look at that and doing as Councillor Savage has suggested and reducing. It's that simple. So again, I'm in favor of the amendment. There's no rush to do this. I think we have to remember councils come and go, and we are a continuous body making decisions, and ultimately if democracy works, then this thing's going to get a fair shot with the next council. So I'm in no speedy timeline here. I think we do this right, and we get it right, and we bring something back to a public hearing that people will respond to in a positive way. I have a motion on our agenda later on about dealing with doing or asking an applicant before any future public hearings to hold an open house. To me, this is, if it's a great concept, it's an easy sell. You should be able to turn people around or turn their points of view around on this into a positive one if it's that good. So I see this thing improving, and I hope it continues to improve more. And I think it could be a real quality development if we see it through. My only concern moving forward is, according to the Lukowicz report, eventually this whole thing is going to be sold off into probably, I'm guessing, 19 parcels, development parcels. And as we've been going through this process, it's been very apparent and made even more so clear, and maybe the community's not as clear about this, But the developer or the person or the applicant is not going to be building this project. They're done once the zoning, or I can't say they're done, but they'll be likely getting it all prepped and ready to sell and into parcels, and then developer builders will come in and finish it off. So I think it's really important we have clear like statements in this document that support what the community truly wants to see. You know, all stakeholders in Lantzville would should be heard on this, and we should be, and the majority position of all stakeholders should prevail. That's how I see it. So I support the amendment. Go ahead, Councillor Gesselbrecht.
All the more reason to get the second reading through so we can hear from the public. The statement that it's going to be sold off in 19 parcels and this developer is not going to be doing that's supposition. There's no facts to support that that's before this council. So I utterly discount that. There are members of the community that support increased density. I'm sorry. And there's a lot. And I see now where my main difference is with Councillor Savage on this motion is that I'm in favor of families coming to this community, young families, older families, more kids, vibrant downtown. And unless you have the housing, the diversity of housing, which includes condominiums, apartments, rental apartments, et cetera, they're not going to come. Sure, there are seniors and they'd like to stay here. And once the OCP and the zoning is changed, it's going to happen. But until we change it, you're not going to get any builder or any other developer to come and say, okay, I'm going to do it. That's what's going to drive any seniors housing, as well as housing for families. We know that the seniors are going to be supported in this community. We have an announcement from Island Health that they will be building a senior care facility in Lantzville. Now, because location and time is in camera, I can't speak about it. But that's Island Health, which has made the announcement. It's coming. It's going to happen. And if the Councillor Savage has said on numerous occasions that he's spoken with the Legion and they're interested, fine. This this OCP amendment allows for senior housing. I'd love to see the Legion come and propose a development. But until we make the changes, nobody's going to touch this. So I unfortunately can't support this amendment.
Okay, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff, I'm wondering, Director Limshu, what can council do other than change the zoning to allow for seniors assisted living? Can we, I'm not sure what our options are other than that. Change the zoning to allow for seniors assisted living. Do we have any other options?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer because most senior care facilities are reliant on some form of grant or government funding. Now, having said that, there are private facilities out there that do not rely on any sort of funding or very little funding. I think it's very difficult to guarantee that because there's so many factors involved for the facility to actually come to fruition. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
It does. Thank you. And I think that I know that I've heard a debate in Lantzville that there are, in people's mind's eye, different visions of what seniors assisted living is. And some people favor government subsidized senior assisted living because it's more affordable to more people, as opposed to a commercial endeavor that is less affordable. So I think the seniors assisted living can be a little bit of a red herring. I also think that seniors accommodations mean many things to many people. The first step is for us to change the zoning so that seniors assisted housing is allowable. And if we want to encourage some government grants for subsidized seniors housing at a later date, I think that that would be something that I could support. Thank you.
Okay, additional speakers on amendment? Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, it's perfectly simple to do. The OCP required mixed housing. We have mixed housing. Simple. The OCP states they must be seniors supportive housing in, I forget the distance, but we read that, read it a number of times, 7.2.2, I believe it is. There must be seniors housing. The OCP is there, so all you have to tell the developer is there has to be some form of seniors supportive housing, and the OCP targets 100 units. It's perfectly simple. You just insist upon it, that's all. Just like mixed housing was insisted upon, it happened. Just like parkland was insisted upon. It's perfectly easy, and there's absolutely tons of private, absolutely tons. I've been to many, many of them on the lower mainland and some here. There's many private, I just named one, the Longwood there. It has a component, it offers assisted living, and it offers the memory care. So that would qualify to be senior supportive housing. It's done. But this is your last chance, Councillor Wilson. If you want it guaranteed, now's the time. You said you wanted it guaranteed. I do. So we'll just do it, even if the density's not addressed in our motion. At least the seniors supportive housing will be guaranteed. And why not give it a chance for these 2 weeks to get it done? It's so simple, it's profitable. I've been in so many of these, and I've also been in many, many of the government subsidized ones, and they're far more institutional, the government subsidized ones. I can't say they're that enjoyable, but at least you're cared for. So that's all that's being required here. I don't know why it's being so, rejected, it seems, and in this original plan and now this revised one, it's being not followed. It's just put there that it allows for that use. That doesn't really give us much assurance at all. And I say the component of it is it's somewhat like a density reduction because of the light footprint of seniors. And this one being referred to, the government one, will be one of those institutional ones. The whole trend, if you listen to the experts, is getting away from the institutional seniors care and going smaller scale. So it's more family-oriented, more oriented to the individual. You should see some of the places I've seen. You wouldn't want to spend your last years there. So anyway, it's hardly a lot to ask. We're just simply doing what the community said they wanted. What on earth is the downside? There isn't. That's the point. So there's nothing wrong with including the seniors in this. It can happen.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
I want to be careful I don't ramble too much here, but just a few things that I picked out and then a bit of a story. To start off, for those that don't know, I'll say it again. Yeah, I grew up in this town, so I care about what happens in this community. Contrary to some of the anonymous letters, threatening letters that I received to my house and people driving around my property threatening threatening myself. It's been a really tough 4 years. But at the end of the day, it makes it hard when you're looking at making decisions that's right for the community. And what I hear from the community, and I recognize that there's a petition, and in my good conscience, I'm throwing some validity to that petition, but I hear a lot of people that are not willing to sign that petition in my circle. People that have said to me over when I was running, and even now, saying, our downtown's a joke. And I hear that. And it's actually embarrassing. From when I grew up here, yeah, Lantzville is a little bit smaller, but it just seemed that there was more life to downtown. I know, Councillor Savage, you always state that, well, look at all of our residents are what's the word? All of our businesses are full. But no, I don't think that the downtown, I have to agree with them. I think that the downtown needs a lot of work. I struggle with some of these things. I heard Mayor Swain say 59% of the units will be apartments. Well, you know, logically, if you take a particular area of the community or of the Village South, yeah, naturally you're going to have more density within the apartments or within the units. I struggle with pinning the number of 100 units for seniors housing. If I look at the last 5 years, especially just as a business owner, and the costs that have just gone through the roof for basic things, I just think about what it cost for me to renovate my house from what I thought it would cost. I envision what it's going to cost the developer to put the roads in today versus what it would have cost when we wrote the OCP. I think we also have to remember that throughout this entire process, the developer, ultimately, at the end of the day, by reducing the density, they're still going to do what they need to do to maximize their profits. I mean, that's just what a business does. So I fear that by reducing the density to the 254 to 389 is ultimately going to, potentially put us on the brink of maybe not seeing anything happen there. But also, if it does, seeing less housing options for people, seeing more expensive houses. I know that there's people in Lantzville right now that are probably your daughter's age, Ian, that Councillor Savage, sorry, that want to live back in Lantzville, but they can't afford to live here. Average home being, I think it's $1.3 million. That's crazy to me. We have to just look at the last 5 years from when I bought to now. So if what I struggle with your motion, and I don't know if you can improve it, I struggle with this 100 units for seniors housing, because I also, in speaking with many people that have looked, one developer that he actually looked at building a seniors care facility in Lantzville, a longtime Lantzville resident. I won't name his name, he's retired now. He did the numbers on 100 units of seniors living about 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, and it wasn't there, he couldn't make it work. So he didn't do it. There was an opportunity for him. So I think if we look at the numbers, I think we have to be mindful as a council that things have changed just drastically, or especially over the last 5 years. I think we have to be flexible. And I think that where I think we would want density in this community is in our village, so that it can contribute to bringing some life to the community. I guess if I don't support number one, I'd like to know what the community thinks more so on that. Your language around senior supportive housing must be guaranteed. I mean, that's an important thing. And I guess call me a little bit, and this is just maybe a question for all of council, not that we're in a round table here, but is the origins that you're referring to, that's private, isn't it? It's not subsidized, right? So, and how many units is that? Do we know?
It started off smaller, and then many, many years later, about 10, 12 years later, they added 2 more buildings, so it was fine. There's a
Total units?
I don't know the original. There was 3 buildings originally, and also don't forget that one on Metro Drive is private, and it's 64 units. So it's perfectly profitable. It's run by the I said it last time, I forget the name of the company out of Victoria. So you get someone like that to put one here, it'll work, but you just simply then, the way to phrase this motion is that staff works with the developer to get this, is another way to put it. But
It might be,
it just has to be assured that we're getting it, because it says right in the OCP, we must have it within the.
thanks for clarifying that, Councillor Savage. 100 started at 60. I have heard word on the street that that's a very expensive place for seniors to live. So yeah, it's profitable, it's a business, but sorry. Anyways, I'm rambling now, but I can't support reducing the density at this moment in time to 254 to 389. I'm not sure if something can be massaged within your motion to. I know that they've provided strong language, but at the same time, I also know you need the company that wants to come there and build it, right? We can't, and it needs to be profitable for them as well. So anyways, I'll stop talking.
Then it's just a matter of reducing the density, even if it's just slightly, but at least try again to get it closer down. And it doesn't have to be that 254 to 389 range. It's just another way to put it is lowering it. Let's see what they can do, and then see what they can do with the seniors. I'm only asking for 2 weeks to try and see what they come back with. It's not asking a lot. So, I mean, I'm not asking a huge amount here. Thank you.
Okay, I was going to speak next.
Excuse me, point of privilege.
Yes.
I need a 2-minute break.
Okay, so point of privilege has been called, so we'll recess for 2 minutes. So we'll reconvene at 8:37, I guess. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. So we're on the referral motion. So okay, go ahead, Councillor Gelspart.
Yes, I move that we call the question.
Questions being called. I did have a few things I'd like to remark on, but I'll go ahead to, we'll vote on whether or not we're going to call the question. So that's all we're doing. So I'm going to put the question to council. So all those in favor of calling the motion on the referral motion? Okay, and opposed, Mayor Swain's opposed, Councillor Savage is opposed, and Councillor Wilson's opposed. Okay. So continued discussion. Again, this is referring it on to staff, so just wanted to make a couple remarks. You know, if there's concerns around seniors housing and what it's going to look like and so on, this is the time to clean up that language and bring something back to council that we can work with. You know, Councillor Gusselbreck alluded to there's going to be Island Health creating or building a care facility and seniors care. This is hospital level care. This isn't aging in place and then eventually transitioning to a point where you may need to go to a facility like Island Health. So I think what, you know, I envision, and I think a lot of people envision for the village especially, is, you know, somewhere where you can age in place and, you know, eventually as you require greater needs and care, you can have that in place to the point where you have to eventually go off to a long-term care facility like the ones that are built by Island Health. In terms of profitability and this and that, I don't think that's our place. Far as I'm concerned, you know, it'd be nice to secure some free land so we can, not necessarily free, but secure some land, which could be the community service lands, for instance, and a portion of that could be used to build seniors housing on. But that puts the onus on us, it puts our council, the taxpayer, to make that happen. I would like to see language in this proposal that you know, in Area B, why can't we have it as 5% has to be seniors housing? You know, the developers writing this, let them write what they think would be a great idea or an easy sell to this community. I've seen you know, in zoning bylaws, you know, where it's written like 50% of the housing for a specific area has to be townhomes. It can be done. It's how do we want to guide the pen here? So again, I'm not worried about how much it's going to cost. I've heard stories about, you know, seniors care and facilities and, you know, and so forth. And again, you know, there's anecdotal at best, and sometimes you have to look at, you know, the broad spectrum of care out there, and there's such a vast array of the care that can be offered, especially in, you know, these types of settings. Clearly within our OCP, it's important to residents to have something. Again, the developer can take this as an opportunity to write some clear language around what would possibly work within the context of this proposed village design. It's supposed to be a master design community. Then, you know, this is perfect. Take the opportunity, write what you think is best, make it a real easy sell to the community. But in its present form, or even in before we rescinded second reading in that form, obviously the community was not pleased with the content and we had strong opposition. So why aren't we creating better language or asking the developer to put better language into this bylaw amendment and soon to be zoning amendment to make it an easy sell, to have a successful public hearing? Isn't that what we want? You know, so again, the developer is going to do whatever the developer is going to do. They just did it with what we have now. So if we put a request back to them and they're like, no, we don't like that request to council, we're just going to give back the same response we gave before, that's in their purview. They can do that. And then we have to deal with it. So I don't think there's any perfect referral motion that can be really offered. Ultimately, the developer has to look at the feedback that's been provided to date, look at the makeup of this council and what each of us have had to say about this, and create something that will wow the community. Will make it an easy sell. Sell the community. More importantly, sell it to the community, and that will sell us. So that's all I'll have to really say on this at this time. So unless there's anything further, I will be calling the question on the referral motion. Go ahead, Councillor Savage.
Yes, I just wanted to mention this idea of the vibrancy of the village. I can't underline this enough, that there's no evidence whatsoever, zero, that 632 units will be more vibrant than, say, 500 units total. It's just, there's zero evidence, and I've already pointed out Chemainus, Tofino, and Coombs all have vibrant commercial areas, and they have, you know, considerably lower population than we do now. So, and Nanaimo downtown's been suffering forever with a lot of high density. So, in terms of their revitalizing their commercial, so there's no set in stone relationship there. For me, 400, 500 units is just as, you know, going to do just as much in terms of mixed housing and everything else as it is with, you know, this stuck on the 632 and then it was 732. I mean, you know, just get within a range people can accept. And you're going to have all the mixed housing you want. There's zero reason for it to not be as mixed as it is being proposed now. It'll be more mixed if we get the seniors there, and the seniors will be shopping a lot more than families with cars running out to Woodgrove, just like they do now to do all their shopping. So you're going to have far more loyal local shoppers. That's what seniors do, and just like Oak Bay. So I see zero downside to this. Let's try it. Just Mayor Swain brought up a great way to do it. Just have a certain percentage have to be senior supportive housing. And if they don't want that to use those units, then they'll use them when they can. So it's, I think the community will want us to see this done. And we should be following their well. And in terms of what we've heard from different people, the only ones that count were the ones that submitted. And 5.8% of the people who submitted, that's a stunning majority. And such a large amount that clearly state it's the density that they just don't want. So why on earth? I think this is not following what the motion we requested. So let's try again and see if it's not better. It's not going to hurt. It will come back changed, I'm quite sure, and can be easily done before the next council meeting. So we're hardly losing a lot of time, and it's, I think, shows faith to the community that at least we're trying to get what they want. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So through to Councillor Proctor. Muted.
I'm sorry. Good grief. I think that it is, you know, a little bit of a question what it is that we need to have a vibrant core. However, we do have the Urbanics report to refer to. And I know from the work I did in the Economic Development Committee that communities that are more isolated are more vibrant. You know, for instance, when you look at Cumberland, they have a kind of a vibrant little core and people do a lot of shopping there. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. But it's a bit of a commute to get into Comox, whereas we're never going to change the fact that we're 5 minutes from Woodgrove. So it is debatable how much density we need to have a vibrant core. It's not debatable that everybody wanted a vibrant core. I heard that continually when I campaigned, and it's all through the OCP. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. I have a couple questions through you, Mayor, to Director Limshew. The last time you spoke, Director Limshew, I'm pretty sure I heard you say that in this proposal, the developer is giving us more amenities for less density. Is that correct?
I don't believe I said that, Councillor Proctor. What I did say was I was outlining the difference between the two proposals in terms of the amenities package. You know, the 732 concept versus the 632 concept. And I said the biggest difference between the package when you know, and that's really what the staff report was trying to articulate was if you're trying to compare it all, at the end of the day, the biggest difference really comes down to construction of the playfield. In terms of lands that the district gets, yes, there's a little bit more, but it's just land. It's not going to be
It's raw
developed.
land.
It's raw land. The developer has indicated yes, they'll do some site prep work. So it's just not as is. There'll be some minor grading and some hydroseeding to tidy it up, but that's as far as it will go.
Is it common practice to write into a zoning bylaw that a certain percentage of the buildings need to be senior housing, or that there needs to be 100 units of seniors assisted living? Is that a possibility for us to do?
There are bylaws that do get very that are more specific than what's being proposed. I'm not going to say that it's impossible to do that, but I think you got to look at the context. In certain cases where those bylaws are written the way they are, very specific, typically those are master plan projects. They're developers are fully engaged in the construction of not just the infrastructure, but also the type of buildings and the end use of those buildings. There's a vested interest because they are actually constructing those buildings, and certainly there's the ability to make those sorts of commitments. In this particular case, as I've indicated in the past, this particular developer, they will be providing the infrastructure, so the roads and so forth. They will be creating the parcels, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the lands will be the construction will be done by others.
So, are you saying that the developer may not agree to a proposal where we?
Certainly we can have discussions with the developer about it. But I'm not able to sit here and guarantee the council that, it's going to be, certainly that provision will be provided. As council has directed us to have discussion with the applicant, we did. We went back to the applicant. Certainly they're watching this meeting. They're probably taking notes. And at the end of the day, the proposal that they put forward is their proposal. This is their response to, the direction provided by council. And as staff, we try to articulate that in our bylaws for council's consideration, and ultimately create the bylaws to reflect that.
Okay. I think I understand. And we have sent it back to them once and asked them about the seniors housing, and they didn't offer that.
Certainly as has been alluded to in this meeting, the big change is the fact that seniors housing, affordable housing, those are uses that are clearly articulated for each of the areas now. Whereas before it was silent, and there was some vagueness as to whether or not you could provide those types of uses in the areas. Whereas I think it's more clear to say that yes, within the community services lands, which are the lands that will be dedicated to the district at the end of the day, there's the opportunity to create those types of uses on the land. As well, if one of the purchasers of one of the sites or one of the properties that's ultimately created is someone like an Origin, they want to step forward and they want to buy a certain parcel, that opportunity exists for that to occur. And that's basically where it stops at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And also, I was doing some thinking earlier in the discussion, and I had my calculator out. Might have looked like I was texting, but I was using the calculator. I don't text during council meetings. If we drop the number to the OCP numbers, we would be dropping by 243 units. And when you multiply 243 by 21,000, my calculator says that's over $5 million in DCCs. So I think that as a council, we need to be really aware of what we're giving up for our community in terms of improved infrastructure, rebuilding Dickinson Road, bringing water to people that don't have water. If $5 million in DCCs is a lot of money. And I think as a community, we need to really wrap our heads around that. And the more you slide it down, the more DCCs we lose. And the people that wrote the Urbanics report, when I listened to their presentation to council, what I heard was they said that they thought that we were getting an exorbitant amount of amenities from this developer. So I think that we need to consider as a council, if we want this development to drop in numbers, the developer is going to drop the amenities because we're already getting exorbitant numbers. I know there's people on council that disagree with me. They aren't land use economists, though, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time arguing with it. But I don't believe it's realistic to think we're going to drop this by a whole lot of density and get more amenities. And we're certainly going to get less DCCs. And we need to be realistic about that in terms of what this community wants and what this community needs as we move forward with this. And before I vote on the motion, I would like to have it read back to me, please, Director Coates.
Well, there still may be some more discussion, I'm not sure, but if you can read it.
But I would nevertheless like to have it read back to me.
Yeah, so we'll have it read back now.
So for clarity, the main motion that's on the floor is that the District of Lantzville Official Community Plan Bylaw number 150 Amendment Village South Special Area Plan Bylaw number 283, 2021 be given second reading as amended. So that's the main motion that's on the floor. The referral motion that's been made and that council is currently considering voting on is that the motion on the floor be referred back to staff to work with the developer to improve their application in the following ways. 1, reduce the density in order for the total units to be closer to the OCP, Official Community Plan, range of 254 to 389 units, plus 100 units of seniors supportive housing. 2, 100 units of seniors supportive housing must be guaranteed.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments? Okay, Councillor Savage.
Yes, in response to Councillor Proctor, you're correct, Councillor Proctor. The amenities have increased, specifically 0.3 hectares of park and $200,000 more cash. Those are the two increases in amenities. And however, my reading of the community, what I've heard endlessly is that it's the lifestyle they want and the density increase more than the amenities. And the amenities are basically, we have 4. The one is the land, one is the cash amenity of $3,000, and then we've got the 1.5 meters width of sidewalk added to Ware Road on both sides, and then calling it a multi-use trail. And then we've got the gateway signs on Ware Road. And that's the total of amenities. That's of the 4, basically. So, and also, so you were correct there, But, and with DCCs, I just wanted to add, we've discussed this before, but DCCs only cover the cost created. There's no profit whatsoever in them. And with Urbanics, they actually said there'd be a shortfall, I forget what it was, the amount of DCCs. So less units means less costs, less DCs to cover those costs that are created. So we're not really losing anything in that sense. But I would invite you, Councillor Proctor, to, if you want to amend the motion or to give it serious consideration simply because this is what the community's hoping for. And as you notice, my motion just says to reduce the density towards that amount. That could mean 1 unit less. It doesn't have to be that amount. And with the seniors housing, that could be done in any which way one wants. One could just say that 100 units of it have to be supportive seniors housing, and they could use that density or not, included in the density total. There's different ways to do it. But I really think, and I just want the best foot forward for the community. Aren't we all going to feel better if the community comes out and is happy with it? And now we start looking forward to what types of things were going to be provided. It should be a time of excitement and positivity, but it's just a dread over the stunningly high amount of units. So if you think of, say, 500 units versus the 632, where 100 has to be the seniors, your shoppers, basically, that's an enormous amount, 500 units. Absolutely enormous. Just picture it on that small acreage, not small, but it's not huge acreage out there. So it'll give you everything. It'll give you tons of variety. It's far more village scale, but you're not gaining a lot with this 632 is my point. If you're losing the confidence of the whole community, or most of it, then, you know, it's not worth the whatever you think this extra 132 units is going to give you, right? It's just, it's not.
Okay.
It's not worth
Okay,
losing the
Councillor
community
Savage,
over.
I think
Thank you.
we'll- I believe, yes, Director Coates,
Yeah,
and then
it's-
back to Councillor
Some
Savage.
time for me to apologize. When I was giving you the preamble of the main motion that's on the floor, and then gave you the amendment motion, or not the amendment, the referral motion, I erred in not giving you the amended version of the main motion. So if you recall, you know, that you did amend it. So where it was be given second reading as amended, there's also and as further amended in Appendix 2. And
Yeah.
okay, good.
All right, so Councillor Proctor? Still muted.
Thank you. I appreciate you endorsing my math, Counselor Savage. I used to have students do that every now and then too. I always appreciated it because occasionally even math teachers make mistakes. And I wanted to clarify that everyone on council wants to put their best foot forward, and everyone on council wants what's best for Lantzville. I assume that every day, all day, and all during every meeting I've sat with the four of you. And I would appreciate it if the same was assumed of me. And I don't want to continually have back and forths. I've decided a long time ago not to do that. It's unpleasant for me and it's unpleasant for people that are watching. But I just wanted to clarify that I have an extremely different opinion of what DCCs are and how they're used than Councillor Savage does. And I just really wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilson?
Just one thing in response to Councillor Savage, or to Councillor Proctor, rather. For me, I don't just think of the DCCs. I really look at also the residual tax revenue that we get from a development. To me, that's just every year, right? You get it. It's kind of, the DCCs are kind of a one-time shot. So we, you know, just something for all of us to consider when we're making our decision.
Okay. Any additional comments? I'm inclined to call the question, so Councillor Savage.
If someone's talking, their mic's off and I can't hear
Oh,
anything.
sorry. Yeah, I was just saying it's, we haven't discussed economics yet, but if you're going by cash flow of tax income, Urbana's conclusion, when you add up the cash expenses versus the cash income from taxes, it was a 3.9 million loss after 20 years. And I qualified that by saying I don't accept blindly what so-called experts say and so on, but generally they've ascertained what's true in so many other places that often development either breaks even or is a cost. And in this case, they've concluded it's a net loss of that. So you can adjust those figures if you like, but it's not a windfall, that's for sure, or even a positive cash flow. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Proctor, I see your hands back up.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that what I read in the Urbanics, I'm sorry, was a net benefit of over 25 million to the community. So I just wanted to clarify that there seems to be a difference of opinion on how to read the report.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get into the whole Urbanics thing tonight, but I was going to save that for another night. But yeah, I did have a few comments about that. I've been holding on to them for quite some time because we really haven't been in a position to have any kind of a fulsome discussion about this application until really this evening. So, you know, it's the Urbanics report. I think there's probably a differing of opinions on what the net economic benefit is. And, you know, it does speak of it being in the millions or 25 million and so many, you know, whatever it is, 1.3 million a year seems to be spoken of. But I think really what it comes down to is, you know, the net economic benefit of a road or sewer pipe or water pipe, that doesn't belong in that calculation, in my opinion. Unless it is benefiting a neighboring subdivision. I can accept the fact that Ware Road, that section of Ware Road is an economic benefit. It links the highway with Lower Lantzville and so on, and there is a benefit to it. But with the rest of the infrastructure improvements that will be going in as part of that development, there's no benefit to myself, like where I live or my daily travels in Lantzville. Zero. In fact, it's a depreciating asset that the entire community will be having to replace at some point in the future. So the goal I was, you know, with that hoping to accomplish with that Urbanics report was at least find out, similar to the Clark Med application, is this application or development going to cost the community? Is it going to break even? Or is it going to be a potential net benefit? And with any development, I don't, that whole notion that, you know, more density is going to put you in a better economic position, I fail to see that. I look at every municipality and city that has tons of density going in, and what do their property taxes do every single year? They go up. So the only thing that really is a benefit to the community as our numbers go up is when we decide to do a new project, and I'll just say hypothetically, we decide to do an outdoor swimming pool. Well, we just have that many more homes to share that cost or burden amongst. That's all it does. It's that simple, but there's no real upside to, you know, pouring on the houses unless we want to keep, you know, increasing the number of projects we want to do within the district of Lantzville. So anyways, that's my simplified version of it, and you may agree or disagree with it. But again, with their Bannock's report, just my high-level overview of the net economic benefit, I don't see it, and I don't agree with how it's being presented. So that's just my position. So other than that, yeah, I'm getting spent on this. So unless there's any further comments or debate, I'm going to call the question on the referral motion. Okay, hearing or seeing none, all those in favor of the referral motion and opposed, noting that Councillor Wilson, Councillor Gusselbreck, and Councillor Proctor opposed, the referral motion fails. We're back to the main motion as amended. Is there any additional debate, comment? Councillor Savage?
Yes, I have a last amendment on this, please. That the motion on the floor be amended by increasing the dedication of public land from 4.85 hectare to 5.12 hectare in order to meet the 22% public park target of the official community plan.
So Director Coates, I'm just going to ask you to figure out how that is going to,
Okay.
or maybe we'll
I'll
figure out
need to
whereabouts it's
consult
going.
with the planner, because the purpose, as you know, the motion on the floor is to give the bylaw. Let me just grab it. Is to give the bylaw second reading as amended. And so, and you've got, and as further amended, that was already happened. And then you would add, and as further amended again. But what it needs to state is what's getting amended in the bylaw. So is there a page you can point me to in the bylaw where it says the 4.85?
No, it's scattered throughout the OCP amendment document, which is 60 pages long. It's the one the developer wrote, and it's in 2 or 3 different places there. For example, it's on the...
Council needs to know what they're voting on. And so we can't create it after the fact. That's why we ask council members to consult with staff so we can assist you in drafting your motions. Perhaps Director Limshu, could you comment on whether you feel there's like 3 or 4 clear spots in the bylaw where we'd simply be striking 4.85 and inserting 5.12? Or is this going to require this motion being reworded so that it's being referred to staff to go away, make an amendment to the bylaw to achieve what is the goal, and then we bring it back to a future meeting for council to vote on it?
That's how I understand it myself.
Yeah, your worships through the council. Yeah, it's extremely difficult for me to answer that question because I don't think there's one specific line in the document where you can just change and it totally addresses that issue. I think there's references made to park and trail dedication throughout certain sections of the proposed amendment. So we'd have to.
Yeah, I'm sorry staff can't be more helpful, but we've talked about this at many, many meetings with other bylaws, other things, and we've given the examples that it needs to be in the form of strike this and insert this and reference the section so that council is making a knowing decision. You know, you're supposed to have it in writing in front of you, a bylaw, when you're voting on it. If it's really clear and it's in the motion and it says on page such and such or clause such and such, you're striking this and adding this, or you're adding this to this page, fair game for council, that you'd be fully informed to vote on it, but something as undefinable and broad as this would require, as I say,
Well, to me, right now, it just seems logical this would be another referral motion.
yeah,
To have the
exactly.
developer consider increasing and
Well,
adjusting,
or refer it to staff to.
or refer to staff to.
So it wouldn't be that the motion on the floor be amended. It'd be that the motion on the floor be referred to staff to discuss or present a draft of the bylaw to increase the dedication of public land from 4.85 to 5.12.
So it would just be giving staff direction to make the appropriate changes to the bylaw. You couldn't do that,
No.
and it would be up to you to determine where to change it in the pages and so on. All I'm doing is amending the revised bylaws.
For clarity, staff do not have the authority to say we'll make that change and council vote on it. And then we bring it back and you go, oh no, this is missing. Oh no, I really meant this. So it's just like the olden days when we used to do minutes and council would talk for 10 minutes and then they say, so moved. And then the corporate officer would go away and craft a motion. And, you know, and that was a nightmare because then we'd come back and it was, yeah, no, that's not what I meant and that's not what I said. So now, you know, administration has changed enormously in the last 20 years. And definitely with a bylaw, you know, council needs to have it in front of them. So you can't just say that staff will make the change. What you can do is that it's not a motion to amend the bylaw. It's a motion for a referral to staff to bring forward an amended version for council's consideration so that you have it in writing, you're looking at it, you're confirming that's what you want to vote on.
I'd like to make a point of
Fair
order
enough. So can we do it that way
What's
then?
your point of order, Councillor Gusselbrecht?
that this motion is out of order as being incomprehensible for either council
Okay,
or
hold
staff.
on,
No, I'm
Councillor
sorry,
Gusselbrecht.
I'm making
No, hold
a
on, you
point
made
of
your
order.
point, or you said his motion is out of order. I'm
I
speaking, I have
haven't
the floor.
finished. I have not finished my
have
point
made
of
you-
order.
Continue to argue and I'll ask you to leave.
I'm going to appeal your ruling.
Go ahead and appeal.
I will second that.
So Councillor Gusselbrecht has appealed my ruling that the motion being out of order, I think that was what was being said, is out of order. The whole preamble and explanation doesn't factor in Councillor Gusselbrecht. So basically, council, I can't vote on this. Council has to vote on it as a body to determine whether or not my ruling of Councillor Gusselbrecht's motion out of order stands. So if you are vote in favor, you're voting and affirming the chair.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's getting late.
Can we, as far as, so what Councillor Gusselbrecht said afterwards doesn't come into, I guess I'm not really following how this whole thing works. The way I saw it is Councillor Gusselbrecht was trying to describe what his
Yeah, I
point of order
understand,
was,
yeah.
and then you said, no, he can't describe.
And I'm asking for comments to be directed through the chair. And he's out of order. He's speaking out of order. He's speaking over me. So anyways, he has called, he's questioned my call or whatever. And so at this point, I'll put it back to the body to decide whether or not to sustain the chair, which is, he's saying that Councillor Savage's motion is out of order.
Point of clarification.
Sure, I'm trying to be as clear. I'm just tired, so my apologies. Go ahead, Councillor Proctor.
So if we vote in the affirmative, what are we voting for?
You're voting to sustain the chair, which means that I'm not upholding Councillor Gusselbrecht's call or his appeal or what have you, that Councillor Savage is out of order or his motion is out of order. He hasn't even made a motion.
So if I vote in the affirmative, I'm agreeing that his
You're-
point of order was out of place?
Yeah, you're essentially agreeing with the decision of the chair.
Okay, thank you.
I don't even know what his point of order was.
Well, the point of order was that he was calling Councillor Savage's motion or attempted motion out of order. He hadn't even made a motion. It wasn't moved or seconded. He was essentially discussing a motion with, or that Director Coates.
Okay.
And Councillor Gesselbrecht had called it out of order, the motion out of order.
Point of clarification. I really felt that he was questioning your ability to make him stop talking. I thought he felt like he wanted to clarify his point and he wasn't allowed to.
There's very much a way of making comments at our council meetings, and just to direct your comments through the chair and to be acknowledged by the chair before you actually respond, rather than get into back and forth and argue. So typically it'd be a hand or use your microphone or what have you, like just signal to the chair that you wish to speak, and when you're being acknowledged, then you get to speak.
I thought he was acknowledged and he was speaking. And then you told him to be quiet.
Anyways,
And he was appealing that.
Okay. Are you finished speaking, Councillor Proctor? Otherwise, it gets pretty chaotic pretty quick if we don't have some system in place where we take turns speaking. So at some point.
I thought it was Councillor Gesselbrock's turn.
Again, if you can raise your hand to signal that you want to speak, because I just got interrupted again. So Director Coates.
Yeah, it's probably not a great time, but it's 9:20. There's been a question of sustain the chair. It's supposed to be as to whether the chair is to be sustained must immediately be put by the presiding member and decided without debate. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention. I don't know if this discussion is going someplace where it's all going to be withdrawn, but in any event, 9:30 is the witching hour.
I understand that too.
We need to decide if we're
Thank you,
continuing the
Director
meeting.
Coates. And again, I'm just responding to points of clarification. So again, and I was trying to put it to the body, and maybe not so skillfully, but it is to the body. So if the council wishes to sustain the chair, then again, what you're doing is agreeing with my ruling that Councillor Savage's comment or motion that wasn't even made was out of order. So anyways, I'm going to move to calling the question regardless. So calling the question on whether or not to sustain the chair. All those in favor? And opposed? So noting that Councillor Gesselbrecht, Councillor Proctor. Okay, so it's ties on the, or fails on the tie vote. Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the vote again?
It was Councillor Wilson didn't vote, so it would be deemed as voting in the affirmative.
I voted in the affirmative. But let's try this again when the motion's on the floor. If Councillor Gesselbrecht wants to call a point of order, well, then he can let him speak once he calls point of order.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, so Councillor Savage, is there a referral motion or not?
Yes, we'll do it in that form that it's a referral motion. And so have you got enough direction for the wording there, Director Coates?
No. Oh. Maybe I should just repeat it. That the motion on the floor be referred to staff to, sorry, did you say you wanted them to discuss it with the developer, or that you want them to develop a draft to increase?
Yes, it would be to develop a draft to increase.
To increase the dedication of public land from 4.85 hectare to 5.12 hectare in order to meet the 22% public park target of the official community plan. Okay. That's a mover.
Okay, so I will second it, the referral motion. And would you like it read back, Councillor Wilson?
No,
did you have a question?
I don't, but I just would like to make a comment because I did hear the witching hour comment.
Yeah.
It's 9:25, and I was hoping that, I know I can't, I don't know if I can make another motion when there's already one on the floor, but we don't have time to discuss this motion that Councillor Savage has brought forth. At least I don't feel we do anyways. So given that, this is such an important piece of Lantzville, I'd like to propose that we actually have a special council meeting next week on Monday. I'm out of town, so I'm not sure what other council members can do or if I'm out of line. My apologies in even recommending that, but I think we should sort that out now with only 5 minutes left.
So through to Councillor Wilson, yeah, we do have a motion on a referral motion on the floor technically, so making another motion would be somewhat unrelated is probably out of order, but we do need to, I'm getting the sense that we will not be concluding this meeting past 9:30.
But it was a motion to refer the motions on the floor to a special meeting. I just didn't catch what you were saying about date and time.
Oh, okay, so would you like to, well, hold on, Councillor Savage has made a referral motion to refer the motion on the floor back to staff to take to the developer regarding the increase in parkland dedication. Is that?
Sorry, with all due respect to Councillor Savage, I'm not prepared to vote on that tonight.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah,
The-
so
the
that's what's on,
motion-
moved
Yeah,
and
the motion
seconded.
was to refer, was moved and seconded.
Yes.
That's sitting on the floor. Council, I hear, there wasn't a mover, there was a mover but not a seconder, and I didn't have the whole motion, was that the motion on the floor be referred to a special council meeting. And I thought the reference was to next week.
Okay, so essentially we would be referring the remainder of our agenda
Yeah,
to a special council meeting.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest through to council is following the adjournment of this meeting, staff will reach out to council to see what the availability is like for early next week for a continuance for the special meeting. That's probably the easiest thing. I can call the meeting. I have no qualms
Anyway,
about it.
Any reason why we can't just discuss it right now at the table? We all have our calendars out. Take a
Well, we
minute.
would have to suspend or whatever the motion on the floor.
Well, he's crafting a motion to refer to a special council meeting. And I think what was provided in the email to council was the 13th or 15th. And so we just need you're going to bring your calendars and then confirm date, time?
Yeah, I didn't know what was happening, so I don't have dates prepared for this evening, so.
I would do
Councillor
it as
Savage?
Mayor Swain suggested, so we're all available by email tomorrow and so on, so.
So through to council, and it's on the public record here, I will call a special meeting for next week, so we don't need councilors doing it. And we will, once we get our dates and times sorted out, then we will call some special meeting. If that is the,
Okay,
what
so that
council
the
wants.
motion on the floor and the balance of the agenda be referred to a special council meeting to be held June 13th, between June 13th and 17th.
Sure, yeah, okay. And just by unanimous consent of council, any objections to that? So Councillor Gaspark objecting? Yes. Okay, so that fails.
This is a referral motion. It's not a motion
Oh,
to
so we're gonna
extend the
do-
meeting,
so
so
we'll-
it's
yeah.
not unanimous. It's a
Sure.
motion to refer, so it's just requires a,
Okay, so the referral motion, so it's being
call a
moved, so
question.
we're gonna treat that as being moved by Councillor
yeah, was there a
Wilson?
seconder?
and then seconded by, who wants to second that then? Okay, so seconded by Councillor
Councillor
Proctor.
Proctor, okay.
Okay. And I will call the question on that. All those in favor and opposed? Oh, yeah, Councillor Gaspark is opposed. The motion carries.
Point of clarification, what was the motion again?
So through the Director
That
Coates.
the
if you
motion on the
read it.
floor and the balance of the agenda be referred to a special council meeting to be held between June 13th to 17th. And staff will, it doesn't say that in the motion, but staff will poll you in the morning, so that can be confirmed and posted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
so,
voluntarily, if you want to email me tonight or tomorrow morning, giving your dates and times where you are and are not available next week, that would be great. Thank you.
and before everybody leaves, we just need a motion to adjourn, because we're not completed our agenda, so I'll make the motion. Have a seconder? Second by Councillor Savage. All those in favor and opposed, that's carried unanimously. We are adjourned.